Hey guys, welcome to the Evil Geniuses Bleed Blue podcast. This is the podcast where I talk about everything Evil Geniuses, and this podcast is no exception. Obviously, you can see how fucking long this podcast is. The CSGO portion taking up 2 fucking hours. Lots to talk about there. But don't fret. There's plenty of information to actually talk about the other esports as well. Um, there's actually things happening now again for most of these. Their leagues haven't begun yet. In League of Legends case, we're going to talk about it. It's starting up this week. Dota 2 has been going on, but obviously I don't know a lot about Dota 2, so I was kind of waiting to see allow them to get more games under their belt before I can assess how good the team actually is, because I don't know enough to see and analyze it on my own. Um, Rocket League hasn't begun yet, um, and Valorant has some big news but hasn't started yet. And so there's not as much to talk about when it comes to these other esports as of right now. Granted, if you guys do have knowledge in some of these other esports that I'm not as knowledgeable about, I would argue the one I need the most help in is probably Dota 2. Um, Feel free to give me suggestions. Um, you know, if you want to join the podcast, I'm more open to it now. I will say it would be significantly more difficult for me to do this with every single esport. I think the goal would be to have a designated guest for each section of the podcast, who is more knowledgeable in each particular game. Um, I think I need the most help in Dota 2 at the moment, but um, and even just sending me some updates on how you think the team is. If you're a long-standing Dota 2 fan and you're a long-standing EG Dota 2 fan, I would very much appreciate just hitting me up. Um, Even if it's not able to be on the podcast level, I would love to just hear your insight, right? And this goes for anybody. So yeah, whether it's Dota 2, Valorant, whatever your opinions are on any of these teams, including Counter Strike, please feel free to share them with me. I would love to hear them. Um, but yeah, so I guess to kind of get started, no time to waste, I guess. With League of Legends. Now, when it comes to League of Legends, there has been not much news. Well, not much news, although we are expecting to most likely get a fun, really well done teaser to kind of hyping up this new EG roster, um, to start the season. I saw that they were doing some what's it called? Some media day stuff that looked very high, like high production level. So I'm hoping for a nice, really cool intro to the team to start the year. That should be coming out. If not as of this recording, it should come out, you know, um, in the next couple of days before the season begins. They did a very good one at the start of last season. I expect no different this season. Um, and so that will be great. Yeah, so I've already mentioned this in previous episodes, but for those who don't know, the roster for EG is Jojo Pyun, second year in the LCS. Very talented player at that. Was a Fortnite professional, now a League of Legends professional. Was a very talented mid laner, but who didn't quite understand the nuances to the competitive game, but has grown so much over the past year, and now genuinely could be the MVP for this season if he performs well and continues to grow. Um, he is that good as a mid laner. He's one of the best mid laners in the LCS already. Um, then we have Inspired, who was the MVP of the LEC, then went to the LCS last year, joined EG. He's the bright young age of, I believe, 23. Um, and he is, I could be wrong on that. He might be younger actually, which is obviously better news. But he was the MVP of the LCS. And yeah, looking forward to another great year with Inspired. Um, did I mention that was Inspired? I don't know that I ever mentioned his actual name. Inspired. Sorry, it's a late night. So we have Inspired as our jungler. We have Jojo Pin uh, as our mid laner. We have Vulcan again returning from last year as our support player. Just a very solid support player. Um, the roles that have changed are our top lane, where we had Impact, Impact has now gone to, oh geez, FlyQuest. I might be wrong. I think it's FlyQuest off the top of my head. It's been a while since I've looked at all the LCS rosters. And we now have Someday from 100 Thieves, who's a lateral move, maybe slightly worse. Impact is probably a little bit better, but Someday is a very, very good top laner, so that's obviously great. And then in the bot lane, we have with Vulcan, um, we have FBI, who is also from 100 Thieves, who is a fantastic, fantastic, reliable um, AD carry player, a bot lane player. And so that actually can be seen as an upgrade. So I think this roster is incredibly talented, is very good, and is probably one of the best rosters coming into this season of the LCS. And 100% should make it to Worlds this year. 100% hopefully can win either spring or fall. I think chances are better for spring as of right now, but we'll see. I think this team is talented enough to win both in theory. And so, yeah, really looking forward to it in terms of getting the season started. They're going to be playing against Golden Guardians, who's one of the worst teams in the league. They're going to play them at 6 p.m. on Thursday, January 26th. And on Friday, they will be playing CLG, who is a decent team. They haven't really changed their roster too much, but and they're a decent squad, and they will play CLG on Friday. These are best of ones, and that CLG Evil Geniuses game is at 5 p.m. on Friday. So 6 p.m. on Thursday, 5 p.m. on Friday. CLG is a better team than Golden Guardians, most likely, but still, EG should win both of those games. We are expecting a 2-0 start to the season, hopefully. Um, yeah, LCS has changed their format now. It's only going to be Thursdays and Fridays because Valorant is now going to be taking up some of those slots. Obviously, that's not in effect right now, but when Valorant does start, it will be in effect. And so that's why I believe that's one of the reasons why this schedule change has been made. The only other thing I wanted to say about the League of Legends squad is that Connor Doyle, whose nickname is Artemis, he's one of the coaches, for Evil Geniuses. Um, he had some thoughts on. There's basically been some changes to the practice and training regimen of the players. It has been changed. It used to be, I believe, a like 5 to 6 hour block where they would just play consistently. Or maybe it was that they play roughly 5 games in that block of time without any breaks. And that now it's been changed to 2 blocks of 3 hour or 3 game periods. Again, I can't specifically remember. We'll hear in a second. I'm going to show the audio, or I'm going to put on the audio and show the video of him kind of explaining it a little bit. And he mentions his own thoughts on the changes and whatnot. And it's a very interesting listen. I think it's a very good thing to hear, and I like his thoughts and opinions on it. Many people responded to it, so we'll get into that. But yeah, as for now, let's kind of bring that up. So
We say that in order to beat.
ooh, it's kind of loud. I won't lie. We'll do this.
Hey guys, Artemis here, and there is some new LCS drama this week. LCS pro players are not playing any Champions queue, and during this discussion, we unearthed some new and very interesting information. LCS teams voted and are now practicing using a double block system. 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. scrim, 3 games, 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. break, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. scrim, 3 games. This is a change from the old format of 12 p.m. to 5 p.m. scrim, 5 games total. We don't know who voted which way, but sources close to the vote tell me that it was not unanimous and certain teams lobbied hard for this new system. I would love if that information were to be made public, and I think that fans have a right to know what GMs and head coaches are actually doing to address the state of practice in North America. So, any teams willing to step up? Now, supposedly this new system will translate to better practice, more improvement, and ultimately better results, but I am skeptical. We went from doing the same thing every day to doing the same thing every day again. The only thing we did is add a break in the middle for players to eat a meal. And this is already tricky to balance because food timing mixed with performance can often lead to food comas and a big drop in energy and a drop in performance. We always say that in order to beat teams internationally, we're going to have to do things differently. We can't keep doing the same things and expect to get better results. So what do? We copy what the East does exactly. 2 scrim blocks separated by a break for a meal. We don't innovate at all. Doing the same thing every day leads to boredom, frustration, stagnation, decrease in motivation. Adding variety to training is absolutely necessary to keep the brain actively engaged in learning. This new system does nothing to address that problem and only further complicates it by making it more difficult to schedule meals, team meetings, one-on-one time with coaches, etc. Practice later also pushes their circadian rhythms later, and they may start to see effects on their sleep. The 2-hour break in the middle could be used to add variety to players' days, but I think it will be largely unusable time due to time spent eating and resting. Guys, I've seen these guys. They are not doing anything in these 2 hours other than eating their food and laying on the couch, I promise you. A better approach would have been to add a double block day to their weeks and vary between days of 5 games straight and days of 3 games break 3 games. This way, you have 2 distinct days of practice. And if you add a third day focusing on individual feedback or player-led review, there's a million things you can do. You now have 3 distinct types of practice days that you can then use as a framework to package your week. Now, all of a sudden, your weeks have a rhythm to them. There's a variety to them. You feel human. You feel like you're improving. You're not doing the same thing every single day. Doing the same thing every single day is soul-sucking, and it does not lend itself to improvement. In conclusion, I think that this change does very little to improve upon the previous structure, and teams would have been much better suited by adding a little variety to their practice schedules. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments.
So you can hear there from Artemis kind of his thoughts on the whole situation. Um, yeah, I thought it was actually super interesting. Really, really good listen, honestly. I thought it was I liked his thought process of kind of analyzing the situation. And so you can kind of you also heard him explain what the changes were. I actually wasn't entirely aware of how exactly the blocks worked. I knew there was a training schedule and certain blocks were allocated, but I didn't really understand exactly how they were structured. So this was nice to clear this up for me in particular. But yeah, overall, I agree with him. I actually entirely agree with him. I think that would have been a nice solution to the problem. And he's definitely right. At least I can relate to the fact that doing the same thing is not going to probably help. And additionally, what I really agree with is the fact that he mentions that these players are probably going to be eating and resting and not really doing anything massively productive, and that sometimes, especially after you eat, you can go into a food coma and potentially not even be as productive. I think everyone experiences this when you're working. When you take that break to go eat lunch, sometimes that hour after you eat lunch, if you've eaten enough, a decent amount of food, like you're just not as productive that hour after, especially if your sleep schedule hasn't been the best. It really just, if the sleep schedule's not going well, yes, maybe you're okay for a little bit during work, but once you eat lunch, man, it plummets. It plummets for a good period of time. And so I think that's something that makes a ton of sense. Um, I was a little bit curious as to why Artemis wasn't a part of this decision making process, or at the very least, what I'm concerned with is I don't really understand why the people who know best what should happen with these schedules, the coaches who are working directly with the players, who see the players, who know what the players go through from a day-to-day basis, why aren't they the ones making this decision in the LCS? Why does it appear to be um, he does mention there's some coaches, and he kind of responded to one of my tweets and mentioned um, he said, I'd have to assume coaches were considered in the decision making process, although I don't know that many, any for that matter, are the final decision maker for their organization. Um, and considering he is a part of Evil Geniuses, he is one part of one of these organizations, I tend to think that most likely these coaches really didn't have any say, which just does not make sense to me. Why is the LCS doing this? Why is the LCS not getting their information and their recommendation from the proper source, the coaches who truly know what's best for the players? Because the players shouldn't be making the decision. Don't get me wrong. The players are going to go, they're going to do whatever they want, right? that's not necessarily what's best for production and for their improvement. And they may not, even if they try to pick a system that they think is best for them, they may not fully understand the science behind it. They may not actually know what's best for them, even if they think they know what's best for them, even if they have all the best intentions. And so when you have someone who, these coaches who should know what are the best ways to get the most out of my team, right? They're constantly looking at these players and seeing how they work and seeing what to fine tune and how things can be better. I just don't understand why the LCS has not done this, why they didn't address the coaches who know what's best for the players. That's what's concerning to me. Um, Now, in terms of dealing with the situation you're dealt, I think Artemis is absolutely correct. I think the way, at the very least, what they could have tried to do is vary the block schedule to where it's a little bit more, it keeps you on your toes a little bit, and therefore you have to remain focused. It keeps your brain going without forcing you to like it's similar to like it's a terrible example, but when you're playing Counter-Strike, sometimes you use the same crosshair for too long, you switch crosshairs, all of a sudden it's like your eyes just focus differently on the screen because it's something different. It doesn't mean that the crosshair is better, it just means that it's something different to your eye, and therefore your eye is now focused a little bit more. It's just changing certain things. Maybe it's you're working, and in your work environment you have a sit stand desk, and you've been sitting for a long time and you decide to stand for an hour, and just standing for an hour, it makes you focus in a different way. It makes you uh, you're in a different environment, and therefore it allows you to focus better just naturally. And so I think that he's definitely correct. It would stimulate your brain naturally a little bit more if the block schedules varied throughout the week, right? Gives your brain a little bit more variety to work with. Now, Jensen Go does reply to with Artemis's tweet, and mentions that he's been a fan of the Jensen Go is one of the oh let me he's a very he's an esports coach. But he's not for affiliated with any team yet, but he's a very well known in the League of Legends scene. Um, he says, I've been a fan of the 5 game block and will continue to be. At its core, the issues behind practice are cultural rather than with the number or the structure of the blocks. Having the evenings free for variability, be it another 3 games, team time, VOD review, one on one, is important. And so he mentions cultural regarding the differences between North America and Asia in particular. Is really where the biggest culture gap is. And Artemis replies saying, thanks for your take, especially look at the cost benefit, and there's a significant opportunity cost and lack of flexibility. And it looks like Jensen Go actually mentioned some more stuff that I didn't actually see until now. Let's see. You can argue that you can do all those things after the evening block or try to squeeze it in between. I'd agree that it is possible, but the biggest problem that causes the decrease in practice quality has less to do with how time is structured, but attitudes towards practice. Just like how Champions Queue versus Solo Queue and the ping was a red herring, the scrim block structure is another innovation, quote unquote, that we will pay our that we will pay ourselves in the back for pretending to do something while the root cause still exists. He's basically saying we're focusing on the wrong things, and Artemis says here. Um, I do think he's right in that regard as well. I do think there are more fundamental problems with the North American scene and with their players in the sense of how they approach practice in terms of their mentality. I think that's been documented quite well over the past couple of years. Thorne and Monte Cristo in particular really nail on this point that North American scene just does not have the same attitude towards practice and improving like Asia does, and it's mostly a cultural thing because in Asia it is just so much more strict in terms of it is your life, it is your job, it is everything to you. Um, and so yeah, it's a different environment. Um, and I do think he's correct. I do think Jensen Go is correct in that regard. There are much bigger issues with the scene that deserve that's what they have to change. That's the root of the problem, and you have to get rid of the root in order to actually get things to massively change. I understand what he's saying. However, um, it's a yes, it is the root problem, but that root has grown very deep and very far. It is, I mean, even trying to tackle that core issue is just such a fucking hurdle. Um, it is it's too much of a hurdle unless everyone galvanizes as a group to change it. And that's where the problem is. I don't think that's ever going to be the case. It just would take such a monumental effort to do that, to make that change, that it frankly is kind of unrealistic at this point. There are things to attempt to make things better, but to ever expect the North American scene to have the same attention to detail and focus and dedication to practice and improving as these teams in Asia, in Korea and China, it's just not realistic at this point. Um, it's just not. And you might get the odd player who puts in the work and truly wants to improve and puts in all the extra hours and whatnot and thinks like someone from the East. But frankly, it's not going to happen with enough players to where it can really make a difference in terms of changing the whole outlook of the scene. It's going to take a massive effort. And so I do think that's why I lean towards Artemis's point of you have to do something different. You have to do something different because the reality is you can't change the culture. It's so embedded. You can make attempts to change it, you can tweak it, you can make it slightly better than before, but it's never going to be at the level of Korea and China. It just won't because it's not as simple as just a League of Legends problem. It's it's a cultural fundamental to it is ingrained in your being type of difference. That's not something that can be changed very quickly. Um, so in that regard, I do think Artemis is actually I like his idea. I think it's one of the ways where you can do something different and yes, it's not going to change the culture, but you at the reality is it's too difficult to change that, so you need to change something. You need to make it just anything to make it more productive. It needs to be tried. And so that's why I really liked this and I'm not trying to bash on Jensen Go because he's absolutely correct in what he's saying. He's absolutely correct in what he's saying. And other people responded and had their opinions, but his was the most interesting that I read. Monte Cristo replied saying, "Nice video. It's good to hear directly from coaches like this." And I can't agree more with that. So he even Artemis even has later in this thread he even has uh, uh, a, a piece of writing that kind of emphasizes his points regarding skill training periodization in sports and whatnot, which is a pretty good read. Highly recommend. So yeah, that's kind of all I had to talk about for League of Legends. I say that as if that didn't take any time at all. It really took me 22 minutes. But you know what I'm driving at. So yeah, really good stuff. Hopefully we'll get to see. Well, I mean, we will get to see the League of Legends team play this week, and hopefully it goes well. I expect it to, and I can't wait. I'm very excited for LCS this year. Dota 2, which again I try to type the 2 every single time, and it never works. So why do I keep trying it? Um, Dota DPCSA. I don't know what I'm gonna do with this title for Dota 2. It's just always all over the place. But Dota 2. Don't have a whole lot to talk about, but I will say this. The EG squad, as it currently stands, and I can show this, they are currently, if you look at this table, they are 8-1 and they are 4-0 in series in matches because they're best of threes. It looks like so they're best of threes in DPC South America. They're best of threes. They haven't lost a best of three. They've only lost one game, um, but haven't lost a series. They are currently 8-1. They are tied with Beast Coast. I think that means they just played. They played today, as of time of recording this, so on Sunday against INF, and they beat them 2-0. Let's see how quickly. 44 minutes and 26 minutes, so quite good, at least in terms of a time frame standpoint. Um, yeah, they have obviously a little bit more difficult. They got to play Thunder Awaken on the 24th. And then they got to play, let's see, Alliance. Do they play Beast Coast? They do. The 29th, guys, mark your calendars. They play Beast Coast on the 29th. So that would be Sunday, next Sunday. So stay tuned for that. That's going to be a fun one. Um, but yeah, overall, teams looked great. In terms of performances, they've looked good, right? I mean, can't complain with an 8-1 record, doing very, very well. So really looking forward to that Beast Coast matchup. That'll be a good game to watch. And I did have a Reddit post from, let's see, posted by Bombad69 18 days ago. Gosh, that username. That really threw me off. But he makes a Reddit post that says Dota 2 team is actually fun now. And now this is good stuff for me because I don't really understand playstyles as much. And these guys, they watch Dota 2, so they know. I get that I'm 3 weeks late and that this is basically a League of Legends subreddit. But holy shit, is this EG team for Dota actually fun? Winning is always the most fun. So it helps winning BTS Pro Series. I don't know what BTS Pro Series is, but they won it. But damn, gone are the days of endless farming and hero puddles. What a fun team to watch. And somebody responded, this guy Thwick responded. He said, yes, totally different gameplay and style, fun to watch, and deep hero pools as well. Good start to the season, but DPC will be a test. So, yeah, honestly, according to Dota 2 fans, this team is exciting, which warms my heart. And I want to watch more of them. I do. I've only watched a couple of their games, and I really, really want to watch more of them and support them a little bit more. Again, my knowledge of Dota 2 just isn't at that level, so it's really hard for me to truly understand what things they're doing good, all the micro plays that are good and bad. It's hard for me to truly analyze all that. It's unfortunate, but for the most part, I kind of just have to go off of record, and kind of weighting what teams they beat, how quickly or slowly do they beat them. It's hard for me. It really is. But I'm trying. I'm trying to learn more. I've learned more about Dota 2 significantly over the past couple of months. So so yeah, overall, great stuff. It looks like it's going very well. Looking forward, they play 3 matches in the next week. So yeah, the 24th, the 26th, and that big game on the 29th next Sunday against Beast Coast. So should be fun to watch. All right, that was a quick Dota 2 segment, and now Valorant Lock-In. Valorant Lock-In tournament. The Valorant Lock-In tournament is here, baby. It's here. But ooh, quick aside. Demon One has joined Evil Geniuses, as was previously um, rumored. Demon One has joined, and for those who don't know, I talked about it last pod. But he's been raising eyebrows over the past tournaments over the off season, and he's looked like a very talented young player. And so, yeah, looking forward to him joining the squad. And now we only need 2 more players. Yeah, we have 2 more players to sign. Most likely will happen before the lock-in tournament. Looking forward to seeing them play. Super exciting stuff. But now moving on into the lock-in. So congratulations to Demon One. If you didn't watch the podcast episode where I discussed about Demon One a little bit more, showed some of his highlights, go check that podcast episode out. It was either the last episode or the episode before that. I apologize. I don't remember which one. But the big news is that Riot announced and revealed format details for the lock-in. So for those of you who do not know what the lock-in tournament is, it's a special tournament to begin. I'm quoting from VLR.gg. Lock-in will be a special tournament to begin the 2023 VCT. It will replace a first league split and take place across 3 weeks between February 13th and March 4th. The winner of Lock-in, hosted at Sao Paulo, will earn their region an extra slot at this year's only Masters event. So there's only one Masters event, and whichever team wins this, their region will get an extra slot. EDG and Fun Plus Phoenix are the 2 invited Chinese squads. The former has previously, EDG, has stepped on the international stage after a dominant East Asia LCQ performance last year. Meanwhile, Fun Plus Phoenix capped off 2022 with a tournament victory at FGC Invitational 2022. Um, let's see here. Let's get to some of the more meat and potatoes of the event itself. So 16 games have been distributed across two sides of a single elimination bracket, so there's 32 teams, giving priority to inter-regional matches in the first two rounds. Teams have also been randomly seeded, which people have been saying that's an issue, but frankly, I don't really know how you're supposed to manage that because who the fuck knows how good these teams are in comparison to each other. Taking into account the regional matchups previously defined. Every match in these brackets will be a best of three, so it's single elimination, but it's best of threes. Once the best teams from both the Alpha and Omega bracket, we are in the Alpha bracket, by the way, the final four will play a single elimination best of five bracket to decide the lock in winner. So, final four, best of fives. Um, and so, yeah, the alpha bracket will be played out between February 13th and 19th. Omega will be the February 22nd to 27th. So we are in the alpha, so we will be playing 13th and the 19th, between the 13th and the 19th of February. So it's coming up quite soon. Lots of excitement coming into this event. It is a very, very stressful event. You could literally go to this event, be practicing, play one best of three, and be done. Um, it's that cutthroat. It reminds me of March Madness. It's super exciting. Some people have issues with it. I actually think this is fucking fantastic. As a viewer, this is going to be sick. The pressure is going to be on. And most likely, the best team is not going to win this event. It reminds me again of March Madness, where yes, the best team may not make it to the final, but god damn it, you're going to be entertained the entire way through. It's going to be exciting. And the best news is the bracket has been announced. Um, so I will share my screen here, and you can see the bracket right here. So these are all the teams in the Alpha group. We are at the bottom here with Heretics. For those who do not know Heretics' roster, this is currently their roster. It's the Mixwell roster with Avova, Zeke, Kellogg's, and Boo. I recognize Kellogg's from the old G2 lineup. Avova, I think, was also on the old G2 lineup. Yeah, G2 lineup. And then we have Zeke, who was on um, the first World Championship winning Ascend roster, I believe. Correct? Yes. And then we have Mixwell, who was on G2, and I don't know who Boo is. Yeah, I don't know really anything about this guy. He was on Giants though. That's a notable team in Valorant. So yeah, don't know much about Boo, but yeah, this is the roster they're going to be playing against. I don't really know how good Team Heretics actually is, but I think EG definitely gets a better matchup than some of these other teams. For example, I wouldn't want to be Cloud9 having to play Paper X. That sounds atrocious. Or playing against Carmine Corp or Loud. Like these are teams I don't want to play against. So not even being in the same group of four as Cloud9 and DRX, being in this section is a nightmare. DRX, Cloud9, and PaperX are all in the same group of four. That is atrocious. Um, yeah, I think EG's in a decent spot, honestly. They very well could make it to here. I don't know if they make it past this stage because they're most likely playing, again, either DRX, Cloud9, or PaperX, all extremely talented teams. So, yeah, don't know that they're going to make it past this stage, but they could make a semifinal run in this gauntlet, which I think would put their name on the map a little bit. I think people are underrating Evil Geniuses because they just don't really know much about them. Their players are just very young and they're not the marquee names, and so people just don't really gravitate toward them when there's other North American teams that are bigger, that have more exciting names. But overall, I think this is a pretty nice group to be in, and looking forward to seeing how well they play. They play on the 15th at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is going to be in a little bit. It's going to be approximately, let's see, 1, 2, 3 weeks from now. Um, but yeah, so it's not going to be here for a little bit. Probably won't talk about it until it gets closer. Although I will say we probably will get roster announcements soon on the last two players. But yeah, that's kind of it. You guys can see like the little graphic they came up with here. Here's EG. That's not very good zoom in job, but it's right here. That's EG. And there's Heretics. So Yeah, man, should be super fun. This tournament's gonna be sick. I can't fucking wait for this. This is gonna be so fun to watch. Even if EG gets blasted in the first fucking game, like this is such a cool idea. I'm obviously gonna be bummed if they lose, but I can't fault the format. I think it's actually a very unique, very nice, fun format to just start off the year in this brand new Valorant League system. So can't complain. Um, yeah, man. Other than that, though, that's kind of it. So without further ado, without wasting too much more of your time, 35 minutes for all the other esports and about 2 hours for Counter-Strike. So strap in, buckle up, buckle up. It's going to be a long ride, but I promise you, it's worth it. We talk about some very important things, good quality stuff. Um, Super exciting. Uh, yeah, timestamps as always. Skip as you please. And thank you all for listening. Here's the Counter Strike section. Hey guys, welcome to the CSGO portion of the episode. There's actually quite a bit to talk about for some of the other esports, but finally to the big section because when is CSGO ever a small section? It feels like I always talk about CSGO for like a minimum of 45 minutes to an hour. As much as I'd love to make the podcast a little bit more compact, I don't think that's ever going to happen in the future. It's just not going to happen. Let me be honest. It's just never going to happen. Which is honestly, I don't mind that, but maybe other people don't. But hey, that's why timestamps are there down below. But yeah, so obviously, pretty crazy week. Probably the best. I don't. I don't know. Maybe qualifying for the major. That might have been the best week of EG for in the past 2 years, but this is up there. This is probably, if this isn't better than that, it's right up there. Probably one of the most exciting best weeks to be an EG CS:GO fan, which frankly not many of them happen a year, so enjoy it while it's there. Um, but yeah, so first thing I guess is to kind of just get EG White out of the way because they are playing right now. Again, not like the biggest thing in the world to take from it. It is a cash cup, but obviously it's nice to see the team playing. It's good to just monitor their performances because they don't get to play as often. I hope they play more. I hope CCT happens a lot more often so this team actually has something to compete in. Um, but they are playing with the lineup with Momo, and they beat ATK 2-0, which is nice because ATK obviously just qualified for ESL Pro League. So I was joking with Current, saying that we beat an ESL Pro League level team, which is it's bullshit. It's a convoluted bullshit statistic, but it's true. And then they're now playing against Nouns, and they lost the first map. It was on Overpass, I believe. Um, yeah, they lost on
16-11.
Overpass, 16-11. Yeah. So yeah, yeah. What are your thoughts, I guess, on EG White as of this, this little cash cup?
Um, Honestly, it like you said, it's good that they're playing. They're getting practice with at least Momo. I don't always take cash cups like super seriously, to be honest with you. But I mean, it's good that they're showing out against some kind of notable teams like ATK. I think Jonesy had a really good map,
Yeah,
or actually good, really good series against
yeah. He
ATK.
went 62 and 44 plus 18, 1.5 rating.
Yeah, that's really good out of Jonesy. And I think even though White just lost against Nouns on Overpass, I think Momo showed up pretty well in that first map. So I think give him a little bit of time with Momo instead of DJ. I think it's funny. I was joking earlier with my buddy that DJ left, but we just beat him, even though ATK is going to EPL and we're not. So
Yep. Yeah, that's
not
pretty
like EG
pretty
White
pretty
can go to
nice.
EPL,
Yeah, no, we can't, unfortunately.
no. I mean, I think it's good they're playing. I agree. I hope CCT is gonna start being a consistent thing and they can actually play some more tournaments this year because obviously we talked about it on the last podcast, but they're kind of in the weird purgatory zone where they can't play at high level, but they can't play at low level because of EG Black. So hopefully there's some more like mid tier tournaments that they can kind of play in that EG is going to try to get them into. So
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think one thing to kind of again looking for the future of the project, not only just hopefully they can play some more events. Hopefully CCT is a mainstay that happens frequently so that they can participate in an event. Obviously, going to be hard with ECL going on all the time, but they need something. But I would say is this Nouns team they're playing against is good. Obviously, they just beat them on Overpass. And if there's any team that I want to kind of take from, yeah, honestly, like I'm not even gonna lie. I love the ZG White team, I do. But a lot of these players on Nouns and also Semphis, I would love for them to be a part of EG. I just think that would be perfect. Obviously, it's still not really doable because it ruins ECL, right? They can't play in
Hmm.
ECL at that point. And so that's really the main problem with EG White as a project overall. Um, but these Nouns players are the players that I'm like, if you're trying to look at the next players in North America, this is the team you look at. You look at this Nouns team, you look at Stamina, who's been a great IGL and a fragger. Cynic is got a lot of talent. Um, it's just there's a lot of good players on the squad that I feel like if you want the next talent, even Semphis is just super experienced in the scene.
Hmm.
He's a great role model. If there's anybody who's going to develop players, um, you already have Stanislaw, who's great for that, but you have another person, a clear, not only just from a CSGO standpoint, but a just personal life standpoint, just growing as a human being, that Semphis is really probably what I would think he's probably up there in terms of one of the best for that position, and guiding people in the right direction. And so
Yeah.
that's where I think this Nouns team this really is what I would want EG to kind of get these guys, because this is the team that you want to take from. Not ATK as much, honestly. I like ATK, but that's not really the team that I'm looking at in terms of grabbing the young talent. It's Nouns and potentially like an Iron Blood or something, because they're just so individually talented at such a young age. But I think this Nouns team is just the standout for me.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I mean, this is all do a little theory crafting.
Yeah.
Everybody on nouns besides I think might be CJ. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
is under is under the age of 22,
Yeah.
22 or under, which I think meets the uh
It should. Yeah.
it meets the We Play Academy tournament. I mean, if tomorrow EG came out and announced that EG White got dropped and got replaced with this nouns roster, I'd honestly be super excited
I
about
was gonna say that. I was gonna say that, but I didn't want to be too harsh. But yes, like
it. Like
I'm being
just
honest. Like
purely
this roster is
from a
sick.
age
Like
standpoint and
yes,
potential standpoint.
yes, yes.
I know Cynic had issues because Cynic stood in slash played with like the party astronauts for a long while, but he eventually got dropped because of like some internal stuff. I think it was mainly to do with COVID. He didn't want to get a vaccination, which is totally fine. Like that's his choice.
Hmm.
But I think because of that, it resulted in him not being able to either play at Fragadelphia or one of these like kind of coming out of COVID lands. So I think he got dropped for that. I think B Wills even played with a lot of the party astronaut guys for a little while.
Yeah, he
Also,
did.
I think maybe no, yeah, he did. But I mean, yeah, these guys are super young and really talented. I'm surprised they haven't honestly been picked up at all by like
Yeah.
a bigger org. That is. I mean, if I'm Liquid, if I'm Complexity or another kind of bigger org looking for like an academy team, like
Hmm.
I would strongly consider this roster because Stamina's come a long way as an IGL and a fragger for this roster. But if we lose the nouns, honestly, so be it because
They're a good team.
it is what it is. They're a good team, and but obviously I still want EG White to win because they're who we have contracted. So and
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not. It sounds like we're kind of bashing EG White, but it's just that they're just in that weird situation where they don't hit the age requirement for we play, and they're Pone's 32, 33 now. You know, it's hard to say what they're trying to do with this roster.
Yeah. It just leaves a lot. It could be useful, but it needs something else. It needs younger players. It really does. We play just fits in. It's the only event that fits in perfectly with what this project is trying to do. And when you definitely consider, because obviously one of the concerns would obviously be you get a bunch of young players, you have one maybe older player who doesn't have to deal with the requirement, sure, the age requirement, but then you got to go to a foreign country to compete. Like who's going to be the role model taking care of some of that stuff? Like
Mhm.
Semphis just makes sense for that, right? Like Semphis
He
does
does, yeah.
now,
He's like a
obviously.
dad.
Yeah, and like it depends obviously if that's something he would like to do. but I just that would make sense to me. Stamina is seems like a very good at
Mature.
least yeah from the like from a community standpoint, the dude is just he's up there, like he's just a great role model, um, a great leader, and these players have talent. And I'm not saying that you would just listen, that you would just like completely replace every player on EG White with all the announced players. Like I think for example, John G, he's pretty young. He seems to be a really good person. He and as an entry fragger does a great decent job. Look, there's people here, there's pieces here.
Mhm.
Momo obviously just got signed. I think he's been great.
Yep.
So like, look, there's things you can kind of take. I'm not saying you'd want to do that exactly, but
Right.
definitely this is the roster where you're like, this is where the next generation of North American talent is really going to be coming from, at least as of right now. And when you look at the fact that Nouns is not exactly a big organization, they're based off of fucking cryptocurrency. As far as I know, if I had to take a guess, because crypto's not exactly doing very well, and from what
Right.
I've heard from podcasts of reputable people talking about some of these teams and how it's structured, these guys aren't really guaranteed actual money. It's more so crypto based. And so
Yeah.
it's like these players are purchasable. This isn't something that EG couldn't do.
Mhm.
Um, it's just yeah, weird situation overall. But definitely this is the team you want to take from. And if
Yeah.
there's any way to get them into we play, I think it should definitely be explored.
I think it'd almost be really interesting to see because I think Viz is. Let me see. He's 21. Jonesy's
Yeah,
like 23,
yeah, I think
22.
he is. Yeah.
Momo's young. He's like 20.
Mhm.
I think it'd be really interesting to see um like a Bentley Pone swap for Cynic and Stamina.
Yeah.
I think that would be really interesting to see because I think we'd hit the age requirement at that point for we play. And I really like Ben and I really like Pone, but like we talked on the last podcast, if Pone was going to get his shot, it was going to be Blast.
Yeah, I think so.
Start leaving. Like, if I'm Pone, I'm honestly probably like minorly upset. Like, even if you don't show it or say it, I think you got to be kind of upset unless
Oh,
there's an
definitely.
understanding within the org of basically you guys aren't moving, which would be like super demoralizing for me at least.
Yeah. The only thing I
Um,
can. Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
like I if I got if I'm Pone, like I almost want to try to move on, kind of like a DJ, right? Like he moved on. He's on ATK now. He's going to play at EPL.
Yeah.
Like I think on both sides of the party for that dropping and re-signing, like it probably worked out. But I mean, I think Ben and Pone probably, if anyone gets dropped, would be those two, and we would sign somebody from Nouns like Stamina and Cynic to replace.
Yeah.
But but yeah, I think again, Easy White is just in such a weird position because they're older. They're not really good enough for tier one. Uh, and but they're too good to be an ECL, or else they'd probably be an ECL over Black or something, right?
Yeah, and they'd win the whole thing for sure.
Yeah,
Pretty much. Um, yeah, Pone alone. The only reason I can imagine him not getting moved up to the main team at this point is just play style. It's the only thing that even comes to mind is it just has to be play style. And obviously the fact that Hext has experience playing with Wiz, I'm sure that also played a role. Um,
hmm
but only thing that kind of sucks about Stamina, he's 24. So if Jonji
Ooh,
was also on the roster, that wouldn't necessarily work. I would still take Stamina at that point over John G. I think Stamina is just that good as an IGL. I think he has that much potential, and getting IGLs in
mhm,
North America is extremely hard to get at this stage. Like the next IGL to move in, right now we've got
yeah,
Nitro, and Neelan's not even in North American IGL. And then
no,
on
yeah,
complexity, you have JT, who's also not a North American
yeah, he's
IGL.
South African, yeah,
So it's like there's just nothing here. So Stamina, in my mind, really is the next, probably. I mean, because who else? I mean, Jake Zula's become a coach, which I don't think is a
right,
bad thing. Um, there's really not much else there. So it's like, yeah, I just think I would take Stamina in that case. But yeah, overall, just kind of a tough situation if you're EG White. But hopefully they play well. Hopefully they're able to
mhm,
to come back and beat Nouns. But yeah, I think EG White is uh, just kind of in an awkward spot. Hopefully, what
yeah,
we're looking for in this roster at this point is the development of Momo. I think that's probably the
hmm
key thing to look at now because I just don't
right,
see any of these other. I hate to say it, I just don't see any of these other players getting the move up at this point. Um,
yeah,
or
no,
even
John, yeah,
or even going sideways to black. Like I don't see that happening either. maybe Ben Leet for Walco, and then like Stamina joins White. I don't know, but it's just kind of a weird situation overall.
Yeah, from what I've been able to tell, like Jonesy is either really hot or cold.
Yeah.
I think he's a really good player, but I
Hmm.
think if he's not on, he's almost he kind of reminds me of Hex in a way where you kind of just forget about him, or at least Hex
Hmm.
last season.
Yeah.
You kind of just forget that he's there. But I, yeah, I don't know because I don't see Jonesy really getting the call. I don't see. Obviously, we have Nealon, so Ben's not getting a call. Walko's probably not
No.
going to get a call. We just moved up Wiz. Hones probably obviously didn't get the call up. I know Viz got listed as
He's a sub,
a
right?
sub. Yeah,
Yeah.
he got listed as a sub for Blast, and I think not a lot of people knew, but I think Viz was also listed as the sub for the major, one of them,
Yes. Yeah, I believe he was. Yeah.
which is interesting to see because
They seem to like
uh,
Viz.
they seem to like Viz a
Yeah, they seem
lot.
to like him.
So I'm curious if they're really trying to just keep uh, Viz and Momo primarily as their come up kind of roster
Yeah.
or come up players on
Players.
that.
Yeah. Players to watch. Yeah.
Because
Um.
obviously, I think Rush and Stan on Black are probably towards the end of their careers.
Yeah, and I think they're most likely going to be there for player development. I think.
Right, and that's I
So
think that's
that's
really
fine.
huge to have. Um, but I'm curious because we haven't heard really any rumors, anything about who will replace Wiz on Black,
Um.
besides the possibility of Junior coming.
Yeah. Yeah. Other than Junior, and like I said, I love Wolfie, but it's probably it's just
That's a that's
really
a
what I'm
that's a
hoping
pipe
for.
dream, man.
It's a pipe dream, but it's what I'm hoping for. It probably will be Junior, unfortunately. But we'll see when by the time ECL starts, they'll obviously have to
Mhm.
get somebody. Or yeah, it'll probably be that. Or Ponalone has to move sideways to go to black, and then somebody else joins. But I don't think that's gonna happen at this
Right,
point. Um, yeah, I was just taking a look. Yeah, and it's like even if John G even became good enough, are you gonna if Rush would be open to the move up, are you gonna take John G over Rush? Like I just don't know.
right.
But yeah. Anyways, whatever. In terms of the main roster, moving into the main roster, there were a couple interviews, but one with Vorborg, one with Wiz, some of the post game stuff. But honestly, the main things that I even got out of these interviews, obviously the infamous one where Warburg said this will be the best season EG has shown in a while, and then obviously immediately, and everyone was like, "Wow, you set the bar real high." He even joked about it, and then literally the first game they play, they've hit the bar. There's nothing.
Yeah,
This is the best they've been already in one match. This is already better than they've been the past 2 years. So that goes to show you just how bad EG has been. Um, but yeah, in terms of anything else, um, I don't want to brag or anything, but there's really not too much in here that I haven't already interviewed him about. No, I'm just kidding. But no, I mean honestly, it was just yeah, solid interview. Nothing too crazy. And then with Wiz, he kind of talks about kind of the move up. He wasn't really expecting it, but obviously in such short notice. Um, but he mentioned something very similar to Hex in that when you move up, you're playing in tier one is just much different experience. You have to be a lot more. It's really it's yes, to some degree it's the individual ability, because people hit back harder and faster, but it's also really about your mental, and just you have to think so much more intricately about the decisions you're making in the game and not making mistakes,
Mhm.
because you will get penalized for even making a tiny mistake. You will get punished by these really 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 good teams, and I've been watching CS for a while, and you can tell watching EG now. Um, they definitely look like they're more aware of how they can get caught out in certain situations. Players, realizing even small stuff like if X player peaks this angle right now, they're going to die. Like this player over here is literally holding the angle off of this specific timing. If they peak, they're going to die. And so there's just you can tell just watching the games that tier one just has a lot more nuance to it, where you will get killed for any type of mistake you make. And even being one step ahead of a teammate could mean that you don't get that trade. So I think he has a very similar outlook on the situation as Hex did when he originally joined, where he was saying it was just really a lot about his decision making that he was going to have to improve on. So I think that's positive. I think he has the right mindset. He even mentions about the Inferno loss, which we'll get to later on against Vitality. But he even mentions, I think our communication wasn't there. We kind of lacked initiative, and also they were just hitting their shots individually. So they were just the better team overall, and there wasn't really anything we could do to match it. So I think that's, I think that's pretty. Yeah, I mean that's what's expected, honestly. And yeah, just I like the Wiz interview. Obviously, I think it showing it's nice to hear his mentality and kind of his thoughts about moving up and whatnot.
Yeah, absolutely. I think all things considered in the past two matches, Vitality's kind of has an asterisk by it, right? But especially against Heroic, I think he did really well, all things considered. Especially with R2, and I think everybody's expectations on him getting called up. I think, like I said, all things considered, he did really well. Kind of like we talked about earlier, very serviceable.
Yeah,
Um, it just it looked like a different team compared to last season. Obviously, because we
yeah,
won, but in the fact of the difference between Wiz and Cirque was at a certain point, Cirque almost looks like really nervous,
mm,
like when he was playing, right? When he was getting a lot of flack for how he was performing, it almost looked like every shot he took or decision he was going to make, like he just looked nervous, not like super confident. I think Wiz was like pretty free flowing for the most part. He had quite a few mistakes, especially in the Vitality match, but that's obviously going to happen when you make this like massive jump to tier one and you're opping against the second best player in the world. Um,
yeah,
but yeah, I think all things considered, he did pretty well. He did a lot better than I honestly thought he was going to do. Um, but yeah, I think his interview was pretty good. Um, nothing nothing incredible in the
yeah,
interview, like nothing groundbreaking, but I think it, like you said, it was really good to hear his thoughts on his jump, what how the games went, his mentality and that, like the decision making, how he's fitting into the team.
yeah, yeah. Oh, sorry. I think that's just some wind. Might have a tornado warning or some type of thing coming up. So hopefully it doesn't pick up. But anyways, yeah, forget my physical health. So
There's more important things to talk
yeah,
about,
yeah,
brother.
there's much more important things to discuss. Like EG winning against Heroic, not something anybody predicted, even remotely. I was kind of hoping
Nope.
that they'd get a map win at best, and that they would look, competitive. That was kind of my hope. They exceeded that expectation by winning the entire series, so I can't really complain. Um, yeah, so to kind of give the rundown, they in the map Veto, so it looks like their permaban was Vertigo. We'll kind of talk about the map pool in a bit. I think you know what, let's first start off with just the overall result of the series. So they lost 16-7 on Inferno, followed that by a 16-14 win on Ancient, and then a 16-14 on Overpass. Um, yeah, I think in particular, look, the Inferno game, I liked some of the ideas that were being tried by EG and the decision making process on their T side. I think the crucial round in my mind was the 6-3, the round seven, um, or not seven. I'm sorry, that's not round seven. That's round what would have been
Him?
round 10. Round 10 would have been the round.
Yeah, I
They
have
they
that in
had a
my notes.
post plant, yeah, and Wiz was sitting new box with the op, and Heroic had a really good smoke. They landed it
He had a
right on
good
new
retake
box,
smoke. Yep.
and it really fucked Wiz up. And then the whole kind of defense kind of fell apart. And even still, with all that happening, I think Heroic barely got the defuse.
Hmm.
So that, in my mind, is the killer round for probably the entire map. Because if they did win that, you're looking at a 6-4 score line. The money kind of goes back in their favor a little bit. Maybe they're able to have a little bit of a stronger ending to the first half. And even in the second half, while it started poorly, at the end they were able to string together some CT rounds. So I think the map could have looked much different had they not had they had a little bit more wiggle room, and had they potentially won that specific round. There was also another round on CT side that they lost, where um, where Cadian was kind of made a really ballsy play, a smart
Hmm.
play, but a ballsy play, a risk, um, where he jumped through the smoke and happened to
Oh,
catch
that was
Wiz
insane.
while he
Yeah,
was quick switching, and and Breeze was next to him, but he wasn't ready for that obviously because he thought Wiz was
yeah,
holding the angle. They both go down, and the round just falls apart from there. That was a killer round. Those are the two rounds in my mind that stuck out as the real killers that they didn't win. Overall, Heroic pretty much disrespected them on Inferno. Just a lot of disrespectful plays they were making. Really didn't have any amount of respect for EG on the server, which is what they should play like, considering they are the best team in the world, at least from the world ranking standpoint, going into the series. Um, but yeah, just could have been better than a 16-7, but they couldn't get it over the line. Wasn't a particularly amazing map to watch. In fact, I was a little bit worried watching it that it wasn't going to be that interesting of a series. Um, but some good ideas from an IGLing standpoint. The team looked better, but it was didn't look like a significant margin at the time, and just a couple key moments lost that really threw the game out of whack.
yeah. I mean, I actually had my predictions were all wrong. You guys can check me on the last podcast. I called Nuke Overpass Inferno.
Yeah.
Actually, Fusion was right in the ancient call,
I did.
which
I
I
did predict. I wasn't sure if Ancient. To be fair, I'll be honest. I didn't. I wasn't sure that Ancient was going to be played in this series, but I did think that Ancient was going to be the map to look out for in terms of if they play it, how does it look if they play it? Are teams going to try to punish them on it? Because I actually thought, and we'll get into a second when I talk about their, quote unquote,
Mhm.
their map pool. I have a list of what I thought their map pool was after the major, and I had it, I had Ancient in a pretty interesting spot at the time, and so with high expectations of it, and so I just thought this map, Ancient in general, was going to be an interesting map to see if they decided to play it, because I thought there was actually a lot of promise when they played Team Liquid, all the way back in the RMR. And obviously, it's just one series, it's just one map, but Liquid was known to be a good ancient team, and they definitely pushed them hard. So
Mhm.
I thought there was potential there, but it was more so I thought ancient was a very interesting map to look for this event, and I ended up being right on that. So that obviously makes me happy. But but yeah. Anyways, continue.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
appreciate the flattery.
Yeah, but I actually had it a 0-2 loss against Heroic on
Yeah.
those 3 maps that I had predicted. I think, the Inferno match going back, you mentioned that re not that post plant that Heroic had that really good, retake smoke on Wiz. They had a really good banana take, actually. I think
Yeah.
because they were getting really punished early banana takes with util, and then but this time they kinda waited out, defaulted, but then they did a retake on banana, and then they had a really good execute on B site. It was just the post plant like we talked about, we just kinda got outclassed with Heroic's util. I think one of with that smoke, I think going back to what we are saying earlier about Wiz was, like how you can get punished for the small little decisions you make. I think if you're Wiz in that situation getting smoked off at new box and it leaves that kind of gap on the right side that he did peek and get killed on, I think honestly in an ECL or anything like that, you can probably get away with one frag there. But I think Heroic knowing their protocols, knowing that smoke, they're like, okay, we still have to watch this angle, and Wiz peeked and got punished. Um, CT side, yeah, Kaden made that really sick play on the first gun round. We had a really good hold overall, but again, like Kaden just kind of went monkey mode and went into the site through a smoke and ended up winning it. But yeah, I think they were really good calls from Nealon, overall for the most part. Honestly, we kind of lucked out because I can't remember if it was Tess's or whoever it was. They wanted a knife whiz or whatever during that
Yes. Yes. I forgot to
one, and
mention
we
that. Yes. It
we were
was
kind of
Jabby. It
gifted
was
like a
Yabby.
few
Yeah.
rounds. Yabby, yeah,
Yep.
we
It
were
was
kind of
Yabby.
gifted a few rounds after that.
Yeah. It really should have been
Um,
like a 16-4 or something.
yeah,
But it
it was
didn't end up that
realistically
way.
like a 16-4.
Yeah.
But then there's 2 rounds after that that we ended up winning. Um, but no, I think overall everything looked pretty okay for Inferno. Um, Obviously not the result you want if we're the ones picking that map.
Yeah.
Going into your own map pick, you obviously want to win that map, and you should show that you're dominant on that map. And I think it resulted in actually Vitality probably picking Inferno in the next series because they probably watched that whole demo over and said,
Oh, they
"Wow,
were very confident, I'm sure, after watching that map.
yeah."
Yeah.
They're probably like, "Wow, their protocols or calls are not very good on Inferno, so we'll probably try to punish pick," which we'll talk about when we get to the map. But again, I think going into like the next kind of map of like Ancient and Overpass, just an overview, like getting those wins. Heroic for the past 3 months have had an 80% plus win rate on both of those maps.
Yeah.
So I think getting both of those maps, granted they're 16-14, so obviously they could have gone either way. But I think those are really, really good showings out
Quality
of
wins, man.
us. But
Yeah.
no, yeah, to round out Inferno, it was kind of whatever. I was with you. I was kind of like, after the Inferno loss, I was like, yeah, I'm not expecting much now going into
Yeah.
Overpass, going into Ancient. I was like, I haven't really seen us play Ancient. Nobody has, so I don't know really what to expect going into that. But I was actually at work and going into Ancient. I was checking on something, then I switched back. I was like, oh, we're up like 6-0.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah, I
like, this is
saw.
incredible. I was like, what happened?
Yeah, I saw EG CSGO post that they were up like five
Yeah,
or
they said
six
like, oh,
zero.
five in a row. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was just like, man, we're on CT side Ancient. Like, you're supposed to go on a mad run on CT side. If you don't get a minimum of 11 rounds on your CT
Yeah.
side, you are putting yourself up for failure. Uh, it's just how the map works. So I won't lie, I don't know that I was ever, even though I said Ancient was the map to watch, I don't know that I was ever actually, throughout the entire match, really all too confident they were going to win. To be honest, they had the 11-4 first half, which I thought was excellent. I thought that was well, I wonder if I should say excellent. It's what you needed. It was good.
Yeah.
That's what you want to get at a minimum. Even getting a 10-5 is a little bit. You're leaving, quite a few rounds on T side that you need to win. Um, but I thought, 11 rounds. That's solid. That's okay. Hopefully they can do some stuff on their T side. They end up losing the pistol. Things aren't going their way. I start to get pretty worried because I'm like, dude, Heroic's already like a decent CT side team. If you can't get anything going on this, on this T half, it's going to be really bad. And so they pulled it out in the end, with some great calling. They were playing very slow for the most part. The EG's T side and Heroic's T side were almost polar opposite. I mean, it was
Yeah.
completely different how they were approaching them. EG was very slow and would try to lurk a player up mid, but for the most part would attack through, A main, or a split through cave or B main. They didn't really, it wasn't really all that mid centric except for maybe the lurker. Um,
Mhm.
Whereas with Heroic, it was just fast hits through mid. There was a lot of fast mid
Yep.
plays, just
They got
very
red rim
aggressive.
control all the
Yeah,
time.
very
Yeah.
aggressive. Which I actually, in my personal opinion, I think I like both in theory, but I think
Mhm.
I liked Heroics a little bit more. At least they executed it a little bit better in some ways, for my money. But what changed and what made it really good for EG is they mixed up they changed the pace, toward the end of the second half. They went for that fast B play, caught Heroic completely off guard, took the
Yep.
bomb site for free, got deep spawn control. And then later on in rounds they would mix it up. They'd go A, and the lurks in middle were paying off, and they were timing everything right, and it was just much better in the second half of the second half, than it was for the entire rest of the game. And at that point, I kind of started getting excited that they might win the map.
Hmm.
The
Right.
one round at the end of the second half that I was a little bit like, man, are you kidding me? Was there was one round where the protocols just kind of got fucked up, around cave, and I don't remember who specific. It might have been
Oh
Stown,
yeah.
but they got like a triple kill, and it
Yeah.
was just the easiest triple kill you've ever seen.
Yeah,
Like,
like we just walked in, and you get so depressed because you see that everyone has util, and it's
yeah,
just like,
yeah, what they did was they had mollied off the entrance, the tiny little, entrance that gets you into that
Mhm.
wider cave section. They had mollied that off, which was okay, but after that, they didn't molly the other side or nade the other side or do anything with the other side, so they didn't know if somebody was sitting in the cubby, which there was. there was another player there, and so that was a free kill. Then by the time that they go to trade that guy, the Molotovs expired, and so that guy Stound's now peeking out, getting free kills, and everyone was peeking one at a time. That was bad, especially when you consider I think Wiz at the time had a Molotov, could have used
Right.
it in that cubby. I understand you want to save utility for for any type of sight
Right.
hit, but that's just you can't be you know
Can't just throw them
they
away
were
like
too
that. You know,
cautious
like
almost. It didn't
yeah,
work. It was bad. But honestly, other than that, like the change of pace on the T side at the end of the half was
that
so
was
good,
huge.
and the calling was so strong. And Breeze had some phenomenal play at the end of the map,
Mhm.
even though he struggled for pretty much the entire ancient map. At the end, he really showed up big. Obviously, everyone remembers that one tap that he had.
Oof.
Um, but yeah, overall, ancient was very good. um, I was a little worried about the T side. I was happy with
Mhm.
the CT side, but I wasn't over the moon with it. Um, and yeah, a big thing for this team, as I'm going to reiterate many times, especially when we talk about some of the losses, is just EG needs to. I like the ideas on their gun rounds, but they need to start winning consistent gun rounds
Mhm.
consecutively,
Yeah.
because getting those consecutive gun round wins or consecutive round wins in general when they have the money and the weapons, that's really what's causing them problems. Is winning a gun round and then losing the next round. That's what they need to start doing. If they can start converting those rounds, they can get the money underneath of them, and they can really start playing the CT side that they want to have. And I'm stressing the CT side because it's harder to manage the money on CT side.
Mhm.
Everything's just so much more expensive.
Yep.
So that's kind of my thoughts on, at least for Ancient, that's kind of my overall thoughts on the map.
Yeah. Like you said, even though we got an 11-4 on the CT side, they it, it didn't look like a confident 11-4.
Yeah.
There were I think my favorite round was the last round of the half. Actually, we took a really big initiative on the CT side. We mollied and smoked off like B doors of B main, and we took that lane control. And then eventually, I think the donuts players flanked mid. We kind of funneled them into uh like red room, and we were
Mm-hmm.
flanking them. You know, like I thought
Yeah.
that was super good. It kind of reminded me of old EG on like Inferno. Like we used to be like one of the
Yeah.
best Inferno
We
teams
used to be a
in the
long while
world
ago.
when we had Ethan and Tarek on
Yeah.
Banana, and they were just taking space like with reckless abandonment
Oh
almost.
yeah.
That's kind of what that reminded me of. But I think Automatic really slotted in. I think he's found his a good spot sitting there in cave.
It's perfect. It's made for him,
I
man.
think I think he's gotten a really good spot being a cave player on Ancient. He looks really confident in what his protocols are to the space and like defend that site in that area, because I think that area and probably Donut are probably the two most important areas on Ancient.
Yeah.
Um,
I do think
but I
Breeze was
think
getting caught out a little bit on that donut position, a little bit too much,
yeah, I think
unfortunately.
yeah, I don't think our mid protocols for CT side on Ancient weren't really the best. I think a lot of the times I was surprised we throw like typical util, maybe a molly or smoke, but after that, if we got smoked off red room, like they almost just got mid for free at a certain point. And Heroic was getting red room a lot more than I'm personally comfortable with. I think we had good defense against it. I think Nealon had a really good hold from Temple to Red Room when they were trying to split A from
Yes, he
CT
did.
and
Yeah.
Donut. He had a really good hold, but I mean, against other teams, like, does that really work? How consistent can that passive of a defense be? But
Yeah, and
on
like with
yeah,
Red Room in particular, it's not even so much like first I'll say like dude, they were taking Red Room at times. I swear to God, they took Red Room at one point. There was a minute and 40 seconds left on the clock. Like I was like,
yeah,
how the fuck is this even
it's
happening?
like yeah, like how'd you
Um,
just let them have it? You know?
yeah, and like I understand the problem isn't necessarily Red Room itself, because Red Room getting past once you if a T's trying to move past Red Room, it's really difficult if there's nothing else going on the map, because they're going in through what most likely will be a guaranteed crossfire. So it's difficult at that point. But what
Right.
the problem is it's not really just the fact that they have Red Room. It's that they're going to use Red Room to take control of the of other sections of the map, and then once they're hitting you on A or B, now as a rotator, you are in a really difficult
Yeah.
position where you
You gotta be
really
super
can't rotate
cautious.
safely. There's really no option for you available. And so that's where the problem really comes in with the Red Room, and they were taking it so quickly. It was allowing them to have very unique splits onto the A and B bomb site. It's not necessarily the control by itself that's it's fucking happening again. It's not necessarily the control of Red Room itself that's the problem. It's more so of what it does to rotations and kind of
Hmm.
how much added pressure it adds to you when other things are going on the map.
Right.
Um,
Right now, yeah, I agree with that. I think I want to go back, and I think Breeze got caught out in Donut like a
yeah.
little too much. I think Caserado is probably one of the best
Oh,
Donut players
definitely. Yeah.
that I see nowadays.
Yeah, I forgot. Yeah,
But
Case Roto is.
but
Yeah, you're right.
but Breeze just got caught out a lot, either with utility or just kind of timing. And if he gets caught out, Red Room smoke, like your mid info is like very low. Like you said, like if they take it now as a B rotator to A or vice versa, like yeah, you got to be like just hyper aware of like positioning and where they could be. Um, but overall, I think the CT side was okay. Like I said, it didn't seem super confident. There was a couple good rounds where we took a lot of space and did some good things and had some good holds. But I think I'd like us to be a little bit more proactive on the CT side. I think there's a few times that we kind of just got caught out being a little too passive or not really ready for like a exec. Granted, we did that on the T side, especially to heroic. I don't know what round it was, but it's when we kind of just walked up B ramp and just caught like Cadian and either Stown or Tessus or something
Yeah.
on a rotate,
Hmm.
which I think T side wise, yeah, we had once we mixed up our calling, things got a whole lot better. It wasn't as predictable. I know in that interview you had with Vorborg, he kind of said they're leaning more towards a default style of calling, which high, super high ceiling, but a really high floor as well. Like you kind of just have to, if it's not working, it's not working. Like the lows are super low, but the highs are super high, right?
Yeah.
Um, but switching it up and kneeling being able to adapt and sometimes calling like let's just all lean towards B and let's walk up and try to catch them with a little pace or get a timing. I think that was really huge because after that, I think Heroic realized okay, like they're not just defaulting every single round. They have a couple other set strats that they can pull out of the bag, and I think I think another big thing was we forced Heroic, especially on Ancient and Overpass, obviously to pull strats out of their bag that they probably weren't expecting to have to use against a team like us. So I think that was really good. But obviously, we won,
Yep.
which I was absolutely astounded for. Again, you called Ancient. I didn't believe it. I thought it'd be Nuke, but um, but yeah, overall, Ancient was a good win. I probably would have liked to see maybe a 12-3 on CT side just to be a little bit more safe because I think our pistol rounds have looked pretty poor overall in
Yeah.
both series
Shockingly,
that
we
we've
used to be
played.
the pistol round gods, and now
Yeah.
it's all gone on reverse. Now we can't win a
So
pistol to
so
save
if,
our lives.
yes. So if our pistols aren't going to be super good, we need to get as much on each first half as we can, knowing that we might not win the pistol in the second half and get a slow start. So
Yeah, I actually don't know what our pistol stats are, but I think we might have lost.
I don't think we've won a pistol.
Have we lost every pistol? I was gonna say I think we've lost every pistol. I don't think we've won a pistol.
Um, I will
I
look up the
can't think of
stat, but
one, but
I am almost pretty sure we've lost every single pistol.
yeah. Well, while you do that, I'll start talking about Overpass. I think
Hmm.
Overpass was it was the best map they played the whole
Yeah,
week by
easily.
far. And look, it's their best map. I still obviously it had been some time, so I wasn't sure how it was gonna look. But this is their best map by far. I mean, it's not even close. Um, Obviously, we haven't seen them play some of the other maps that were good for them in the past. We almost got to see Mirage.
Hmm.
That would have been nice. I would have wanted to see that because that was one of their best maps at the end of last season. But yeah, Mirage and Nuke, we really haven't seen any of, which are two maps that they liked to play last season. So we still need to see how they are on those particular maps, and I'll get to it in a second. I worry that we may never see those maps. But in terms of Overpass, look, the T side was phenomenal. The calling was so good. The communication, just the way they worked together and took over the map, the way they were reading what Heroic was doing, and the way they reacted to certain situations was so good. Yeah, they had a strong T side. They went 9-6 on the T side.
Hmm.
And frankly, Yeah, it just looked great. It just looked fantastic. Both CT and T sides looked great.
Mhm.
Really, when you get down to, yes, the T side wasn't. They lost. Technically, they lost the CT side 8-7. But honestly, it really came down to just having the money underneath them. And like I said, it
Mhm.
comes down to winning those consistent rounds in a row. That's kind of where they struggle sometimes, especially with CT side. Something they really struggled with last year. It looks like it's still a concern this year, but not as much.
Mhm.
And the ideas on their gun rounds look much, much better. Their philosophy is much better and stronger. Um,
Yep.
and so it's like some of those T side rounds also look like there's times where they had great ideas, but they just didn't expect a player to be in a certain position. The rounds, well, first off, Stown had some incredible A site kills that just, I mean, how are you supposed to, it had nothing to do with
Yeah.
the idea that EG had. EG was doing the right thing, but it
Mhm.
just didn't work out. Some rounds, automatic. I remember the 1v1 automatic with Cadian. Like that's a round that they should have won. They
Caden hit a shot, you know?
Yeah, like things went wrong. It still got down to a 1v1 with Automatic and Cadian, which is not a bad place to be in by any means. If there's any player you want in a 1v1, it's going to be Automatic, and he just didn't win it. But I remember a round where Jabby had an incredible spray transfer on T side going through Monster that was just unreal.
Mhm.
There was another round where Jabby, was it Jabby? I think it was Jabby. He basically they didn't expect him to be at Optimus so early
Mhm.
on when they were playing CT side.
Yeah.
Um, and it reasonably, it wasn't like it was bad of them. It's not like they didn't clear it. They just he came up at a weird timing and
Right.
sneaked into Optimus and got a double spray transfer kill onto the bomb planner and the other guy. Obviously, you could make the argument he should be looking there, but the guy was looking dumpster because he didn't see the guy go to
Right. Yeah.
Optimus. Um, that's not the end of the world. Stuff like that's going to happen. But I think the T side was good and the CT side was for the most part good. The gun round, like I said, the gun round ideas were great, but they need to pick up some of those consistent rounds. But the plays they were making were really strong. And I think Overpass was definitely both times they've played it, best maps
It's
that
looked
they've
like our
played.
best map
Yeah,
easily. Yeah.
best maps they've
I
played.
mean, yeah, like to get a 9-6 on a map like Overpass, obviously it's not a CT sided as like Ancient, but it's still like generally considered a CT sided map. Um,
Yeah, they got the 9-6 on
yeah,
while they were on their T side, and then it's
right.
just like the 8-7. You got to close out a game. Good, that's fine. But
Yeah,
yeah, T side. What shows the mark of a good Overpass team is if they can perform on T side.
yeah,
It's a very
absolutely. And
tactical map where you really have to work together well and take
mhm,
sections at a time, and they just have a great understanding of it.
yeah, and Breeze had a extremely strong T
Yep,
side. I think Hex had a really good T side as well in their new roles.
yep,
Um, like you said, I mean, there's going to be times where like players are just going to make
yeah,
star plays, right? Like Kading on Inferno going through the smoke, Yabby being up there already at Optimus and also spraying down like Monster, right? Players are just going to make plays, and you can't do anything about that. Like if you're making the right call where you're executing a site and it's a 3v1, well, if that player gets like a 3-man spray down, like considering it's situational, but like
yes,
in that Yabby instance, right? Like he just made an early rotate, gut call, and it worked out for him. But like it looked like we knew what we were doing, and it's probably the most map when I'm gonna see it in later matches. It's the most map I'm gonna feel confident on and thinking that we should take that map. Um, I think we just had really clean calls in general on Overpass. Like it looks like everybody is very comfortable in their roles. I think Wiz maybe had a couple hiccups, but again, it's his first match on land against the best team in the world, so we're giving him a little bit of slack here.
yeah.
Um, I looked up the stat. We actually did win a pistol round on Ancient. We won the first
Ah,
CT side because we did go up 6-0, and then we actually
okay.
won the T side pistol round on Overpass again. But I think because we watched, I don't think we got one on Vitality. I'll look, but I don't think we got a pistol round against Vitality. But
Oh yes,
um,
you're right. We did get the one on Overpass. Yes, that's correct. I
yeah,
remember that. We because
um,
I
yeah,
don't remember who it was, but they almost fucking won it back. It was a one v
yeah.
three, and they almost won it. Um,
Um, on the T side, though, I think there's probably a few rounds in gun rounds where we wouldn't get the opening duel and we'd be down 4-5, but we end up actually bringing it back to 3v3s or even
yeah,
winning the round, which I think shows a really good understanding of how the map worked and what their protocols are for when they go down a man early on after an opening pick by say Cadian or Stone or whoever it might be, um, which I think shows that we're a lot more confident. I feel like if I watched this team last season, even the Stewie team, whatever team it might have been that isn't this year, if we go down in the opening seconds of the round to a pick,
Over.
I'm really not putting my money on that we're winning that round.
Yeah.
But in this, like it seems like we have good strats and good calls to make, and it's you know, reel me back in, but it makes me excited, right?
Yeah.
Like it's the first time I've been excited about like watching this team play because it looks like we actually are a little bit more confident now. I
Yeah.
think on the CT side, Wiz had one round where he had two really good opening picks, and we just flat out won. Like everyone's standing, and I want to see that out of my opper. We used to get that all the time out of Cirque, but then Cirque started changing his style and how he wanted to play a little bit. But if Wiz is going to play like he did on Overpass or in general how he's been playing, I will take that every day of the week over a inconsistent Cirque that either goes 20 and 15 or 5 and 30. You know what I mean? Like I think I just think it's our best map easily without a doubt.
Yeah.
Obviously, Ancient looked pretty good, but I think just Overpass was a big shock for a lot of people because I think Heroic just notoriously has been like a really good Overpass team.
Hmm.
So to get a win over them on that map specific, I think probably showed a lot of the other teams in the top 30 that we're not really playing around anymore. To kind of move it into just like overall again, like you can call this win like a flash in the pan, right? Like you can call it a fluke. They have the rematch coming up on Tuesday, so we'll see. Uh, but again, I think this is the most confident we've looked in a very long time. Um, yeah, I'm getting excited, but I also don't want to get my expectations high at the
Yeah.
same time because we'll really see come like Katowice when we play Fnatic and stuff. Some of these middle tier, not mid tier, but like
I know.
mid
Yeah.
tier of
They're
tier
not as good
one,
as
right?
Heroic. They're not as good as Vitality.
Right. The
They're
the mid
around that
tier tier
Astralis
ones.
level. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll
Those
really
type of
see. I
teams.
almost I almost wanted us to play Astralis. Obviously,
Yeah.
Heroic beat them out pretty flat, but
Yeah. I won't
I think it'll
lie.
almost be good to play Heroic again. I was thinking about this earlier
Yes.
today that I'd rather play the number one team in the world again, and even if we lose, right? I'm sure there's gonna be shit all over Twitter like, haha, like like it was just a flat, it was a fluke. I don't really care because we've beat them once. We showed a good standing. We got to win for Christ's sakes, but to get practice against the team that is considered the best team in the world is like huge because not everyone's getting that, obviously,
Yeah.
right? And if it's us and we got to win, and uh, I'm already somewhat satisfied for how Blast went. Obviously, if we beat Heroic again and we somehow qualify for the next Blast thing straight through, that's great. If not, I think we had a strong showing.
Yeah. Yeah. And like obviously, um, we got some more best of threes to play. I think a minimum of two.
Ooh,
I believe. So we'll see how it goes. Before we jump into Vitality, I think this might be the best place to talk about because we were just talking about expectations. Um, uh, Look, we're back. It's drama sesh once again.
mhm.
I really question, man, and it's look. I want to specify this now. It has nothing to do. Anything that I tweeted, anything that I've said that I say now has nothing to do with the players. It has nothing to do with them. Has nothing to do with the players, has nothing to do with Vorborg, doesn't have anything to do with the people who are there, who are playing, who are putting in the work. This is about the organization and some of the employees that necessarily, in particular, GamerDoc. I'm just gonna say it. We all know it. It's out of hand. It's out of fucking hand, and I'll just like, it's insane to me. So to kind of put this all into context, um, we had the whole drama at the end of last year, with her and Kassad getting into a not even really a GamerDoc made herself look very unprofessional by
Or
um, yeah,
yeah,
by basically calling Kassad a old white dude, um, and just attacking him based off of you know uh, just who he is and not necessarily anything that he was talking about, and just being very very just unprofessional and just wrong, just saying very wrong things. Um, and now it continues. It just fucking continues. Now she attacked Pimp, and it wasn't really specifically Pimp. It was casters and analysts. She said, "We just took down." This is after they beat the Heroic. She said, "We just took down the number one ranked team in the world, and all the casters can think to say is Heroic didn't show up. By the way, objectively not true. That's not what the casters said. The casters, Maui, Snake, and Anders, actually were very supportive of Evil Geniuses, and multiple times throughout the broadcast said how big it would be if they actually won the series. If anything, you could argue that the bias was towards EG because Maui Snake was casting, and because people want EG to be good. It's not that the casters and analysts don't want them to be good. It's just that it's kind of fucking hard to get excited about a team that loses every game they play. So at some point, they're going to be annoyed and just they're going to dismiss EG. It's just bound to happen. So her saying the casters, all they could say was that Heroic didn't show up. That's not true. And also, it's not even true that the analysts said that, because yes, the analysts did say Heroic didn't show up in this series. But guess what? They didn't fucking show up in the series. Like, what else are they going to say? They didn't show up in the series. They didn't play the way that they normally play. If they did, EG wouldn't have won. That's just Heroic is a better team. If Heroic plays the way that Heroic
Easily.
plays, they win. It's just that simple. In order, that's just how it is. It doesn't mean that EG didn't play well. They even mentioned that EG played very well and that the communication looked good and things were positive for them. They mentioned that and they gave them their credit, but they're not going to just announce this team as a tier one contending team after one best of three. And she mentions we clawed our way back from 217th in the world, which I'll get to that in a second, by building a talent pipeline the whole scene memed on. So let me just break that down a little bit. Climbed back from 217th in the world. By the way, that's an indictment on you. That is a specific indictment on you. The fact that EG was even 217th in the world is fucking stupid. It is so dumb and ridiculous. Like, that's your fault.
Yeah, you're
Congratulations for
you're
literally
literally going
announcing.
down on yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
congratulations for literally just telling everyone, hey, by the way, I was overseeing the team when they were 217th in the world. Like, that is not something to be proud of. And then mentioning that you have a talent pipeline. I mean, what the fuck is this? Is this the CIS region? Are we pumping out talent like Wonderful every day? Like, what pipeline are you seeing? Like, listen, there's some good players in North America that are coming up. They aren't ready for tier 1. The closest player that is ready for tier 1 Counter-Strike at this point is probably George. George is probably the closest ready for tier 1 player you can even think of. I would put George, honest to God, I'd put him over Hex and I'd put him over Wiz. I really would. I think George is that good. But saying that you have a talent pipeline is absurd. Like, it's a project that is ongoing. It's still in the early stages. We're not even a year into the project. We're 6 months in, man. Like, do not start saying we have a talent pipeline. If there's one thing that North America doesn't have right now, it is a talent pipeline. We are lacking for talent. This project is trying to develop it. Um, and she says, step out of the echo chamber and pay attention, which is just the most ironic thing you could possibly
That's
say
that's fucking absurd.
when you are the one who's in the echo chamber. You are
Yeah.
literally the one. You're acting like this project, the entire project, the team, it's a success now. It's a success. And that everything that everyone ever said about them was just wrong, and everyone was just a bunch of haters. When in reality, you're just such a super fan of EG that you just can't even realize how reality works. Um, Now Pimp responds and basically defends the casters, defends the analysts as he should. Um, GamerDoc makes a terrible metaphor relating to the NFL. I'm not going to get into all this, but basically, um, she she basically calls him out, and they basically say that they're not very professional. The casters and analysts aren't being professional, and they're not living up to the standards that esports deserves. Even more blasphemy. If there's one thing the Counter-Strike scene has an abundance of, it's professional casters and analysts that do their job at an extremely high level to the highest standards. It's unreal to think that you could claim that the CSGO scene does not have professional casters and analysts. You clearly know by you. This whole thread just shows to me that she knows absolutely nothing about Counter-Strike in general and about anything about the CSGO scene. She knows nothing. She knows absolutely nothing about the CSGO scene. It's mental. Um, Pimp obviously defends and says, you know what? He stands up for himself, thank God, and says it's not okay that you're essentially she was speaking she was libeling against casters and analysts. It's ridiculous. Obviously, um, yeah, just insane
Yeah.
stuff. Absolutely insane stuff. And there was another tweet. Now, granted, this isn't to the same degree as GamerDoc. The director of EG, he mentioned something. He basically kind of rehashed the
Hmm.
Kassad one where Kassad basically had said like something along the lines of uh, another great performance from EG and was kind of memeing them. Obviously, it was a funny joke. And he kind of did that tweet, but he obviously was like, oh, another great performance from our team. And it's like I just retweeted and I was just like, dude, why are we doing this? Like, why are we attacking this now? This isn't the time. It's too early. And he you know what, he was give him his credit.
Hmm.
uh he actually was reasonable about it. And he kind of delved into, he basically was like, look, I just wish the community would just actually look at what the project is trying to do. And with that, I completely agree that they should look at what the project is trying to do, because I do believe if this was FaZe Clan, people would look at the Blueprint project completely differently because it's
Oh,
FaZe.
absolutely.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Now, granted, a little bit of a difference there. If FaZe was doing it, they would be grasping international talent. That's a little different. I understand that. But you understand my general point there. Um,
Yeah.
and so I'm just like, look, this was an incredible win. I personally was breaking down emotionally and physically just because of
Mhm.
which is embarrassing to say, but it's true. Just because I just haven't seen EGU beat a tier one team, let alone the number one team in the world, ranked wise, in
Ever.
years. Yeah, it's been so long, so it just meant so
Yeah.
much to me. Um, but consistency, guys. Consistency is what this team needs. They need consistency. Vorborg mentions it in when on his timeline after the match of the series. It's just I'm glad the team understands this is a consistency thing. This isn't just congrats. This is it. We've made it. This is the beginning. We now need to develop this further. Keep realistic expectations. We're probably, let me be honest, we're probably not going to beat Heroic when we play on Tuesday. I would imagine we probably lose. I want us to be competitive. But we're probably going to lose. But again, let's see. Hopefully, competitiveness. That's the consistency I'm looking for. I'm not looking for consistent another series win over Heroic necessarily because I think the team is too young. But I'm looking for competitiveness, and the consistency is what's important. And bashing analysts for basically not believing in evil geniuses is not their fault. They're doing their job. You're not going to just believe in a team after one best of three. That's not how this works. You're not going to believe that before obviously the Jacksonville Jaguars game versus the fucking the Kansas City Chiefs. Nobody, even though they had that great win over the Chargers, nobody's fucking predicting the Jacksonville Jaguars to beat the San Francisco, or not San Francisco, the Kansas City Chiefs,
Yeah. No.
because that would be unrealistic. They've only done it one time. They need to be more consistent, right? That's just how this works. I also question people claiming that the Blueprint project is a success because of this. That's not true either. In my opinion, it's not necessarily how well the main team plays that determines that. It's more so that what are the talent that are coming into these secondary squads? Are they developing this talent? Are they improving this talent? Are those talent eventually, if good enough, moving into the main roster? And when they do, are they able to perform? That is what determines the success of the Blueprint project, not EG winning a best of three over Heroic. That doesn't mean, I don't want to say it means nothing, but it doesn't if that's the only result. It just
Hmm.
doesn't. And so I basically stressed to them right after the series, I said, don't put your foot in your mouth. Don't do this. Don't start attacking them because it could
We're not
very
there
well
yet.
not go that way. And when it does,
Yeah.
you're going to be the clown and the community's going to clown you. And you're going to wonder, man, why does EG get such a bad reputation in Counter-Strike? And I'm just going to point to this because it's the easiest thing to point to. And it's just consistently been happening over the past couple of months. Um, yeah, it's just mental to me.
Yeah,
And guess what?
it's
It already kind of fucking happened when they lost to Vitality 16-1 on Inferno. You didn't see any fucking EG employees tweeting then, did you? Because they got shit on, and it wasn't even close. So, and by the way, Nicole, I'm not leaving you out of this because not only did you like her tweet where she basically was claiming that EG's, a talent pipeline and whatnot, but I don't understand how she can keep getting away with this. I'm going to be honest. If this was a normal person job, she could potentially be fired. Like, she potentially wouldn't even be working for the organization anymore because of the stuff that she said that has had such a bad impact on the reputation of their brand in this scene. It's unreal that she, in my opinion, still has a job. Now, maybe it's more limited, but I would just say at the very least, you need to talk to her and be like, look, you got to limit what you tweet, or we need to make sure it gets approved or something, because this is ridiculous. I mean, the amount of times that it's happening now, it's not even like it's criticizing people for, um, I don't know how to say this, criticizing maybe or encouraging the team and how they're growing or anything. It's like it's personally attacking people in the scene. You're personally attacking Kassad. You're personally attacking casters and analysts on if they do their job the right way. Who are you to judge on any of that? First of all, who the fuck? Nobody knows you in this Counter Strike scene. Kassad has never fucking heard of you. Okay? And these people are respected people who've been in the scene for a very long time. Why, like, this can't stand. I understand she's friends with her, but you have to draw a line because this conflict of interest is a problem. So figure it the fuck out. Um, I don't know what if anything will change. I doubt it. But just this is getting to a level that's unreal, and it's negatively impacting the brand to a point where it needs to be addressed. It needed to be addressed honestly 4 months ago, and it still hasn't been addressed, and it's a problem. So yeah, I'm sorry. That was my rant. I told him earlier I was going to go on a fucking tirade on this because this is just shit that I just it's one thing if the team isn't playing well. It's another thing if you're just getting in your own damn way, and it just they consistently do it every single time. Listen, have as many jokes and memes as you want about the whole EG has 3 fans. That's fine. I like that. That reminds me of G2 how they make fun of themselves. That's a good thing. But don't take it to the extreme how when you have one good performance when everyone's been talking shit, you take it to fucking 0 to 60 real quick and it just blows up in your face. Let's be rational, let's be reasonable, and you know, stay humble, right? When you're doing well, stay humble. When you're doing poorly, take the criticism, learn from it, and use it to fuel you. You know, if somebody's saying shit about you, if somebody thinks the project's going to go to shit, prove them wrong. That's what you need to do. Keep your head down and work. Don't start blabbering to people when you finally do anything remotely successful. All right, I'm done. You can say whatever you want. I need to stop talking. Go for it.
Yeah, let me take over for a sec so your blood pressure can kind of go back
Yeah,
down.
yeah, I gotta cool off.
No, I think I'm right there with you. I'm not as pent up about it.
Yeah,
At least the previous instances. I think they took the whole Kassad thing a little too personally. Like Kassad's known as just like kind of like a banter type guy. He's kind of like Thorn, like he likes kind of talking shit. Maybe not to the degree of Thorn, but he likes having that banter, that kind of conflict. But I think this whole Twitter thread, when I saw this between her and Pimp, I was like, no, like you're fighting like the wrong battle here. It's one thing to be excited, right? After a big win, because I'm not gonna try to downplay beating Heroic. It's a huge win.
definitely.
But like you said, like if Heroic shows up 100% ready, we lose that match. Like I don't think anybody was expecting us to win because if Heroic truly shows up, we lose. Like 1 out of 20 times. I think our best versus Kate, like Heroic's best, Heroic probably still beats us for the most
Oh yeah, definitely.
part. Maybe we have a couple good showings or something, but yeah, we still lose easily. Um, yeah, it's one thing to be excited and say, great win, being encouraging, like, but don't say the project's working because it's not yet.
It's
Still
making
holding
good
out.
strides. It's
Yeah,
definitely
and
in the.
I
It's
I think
definitely
it's
going well, but a
yeah, it's
success
going
is
well,
hard
but
to.
right, and you know, if Hex and Wiz show out to be like these really insane players for this whole year, then you can say, okay, we brought these guys in, and now they're top 30, top 40 players in the world individually. Then you can be like, okay, so now this is working. We don't have a pipeline. Okay, let's face it. Blueprint is not a pipeline for all in A. We have not sold a single player or anything to a big org for a lot of money that's been successful. You could say DJ, but that was a mutual like leaving on equal terms. Now he's in EPL. If he performs super well, maybe you can say like he learned a lot or something from us. But that's not
Yeah.
a pipeline. We didn't. This isn't Europe where we're producing teams like Gambit. This isn't Europe where we're producing guys like Wonderful, like Headtrick, like Monacy. It we're not that guy. Like we're not them. Um the whole building our way up from 217, that is the most bullshit fucking thing I've
Rants.
ever heard. It's
Fuck
so
rants.
bad because one, you're taking the shot at yourself saying, "Yeah, we were 217th in the world at one point." Granted, you could say because I think HLTV technically when you make certain roster moves it drops you in ranking,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
still
it's
like
whatever.
you you shouldn't really be gloating about that.
Nah, not even
Um
close.
the whole echo chamber fucking thing, that's fucking ridiculous. Going at the casters and stuff is just it's unnecessary. Obviously, if she watched the match, she's just super biased, right? Like
Yeah.
if if a team does something poorly, the casters are gonna call that out
Oh,
every
100%.
day of the week. And it's not a personal attack, it's just doing
It's
their
their
job.
fucking job, yeah.
It's their fucking job.
It is.
So, because they do it to Heroic, they do it to all
Yeah.
these teams where they're like, "What the fuck did that guy just try to do?"
Yeah,
Right? Like that's
exactly.
their job. Their job is to be the mediator between what's happening in game and to the viewers. That's their job. Because if you're someone that doesn't play CS at a high level or watch it constantly at a high level, you're a casual viewer, you almost rely solely on the casters to communicate what's happening in game.
Yes.
Because if you watch, something happens, you almost look at it and you're like, "Oh, they just died." Oh. But the casters try to communicate what they're going for, possibly what the strategic view was, if it was a good or not, because they've seen hundreds of thousands of matches, calling, casting, just watching, playing, and to go at them and saying they're being unprofessional and biased is fucking absurd. It
Yeah.
is because who do we have call? I think it was Anders and Maui, right,
Anders and
calling that
Maui.
game.
Maui, who is a semi-professional North American player, and you have
And,
Maniac and Pimp, who are both very good professional players in their
yeah,
respective time
and,
frames. Like,
and Maui even being an
what?
NA like stan, right? Like
Yes.
he's the biggest NA stan we have in like the talent portion of
Yeah.
analysts and casters. He was, he's probably gonna be harshest of everybody on EG's performance. And granted, he was at some points, but they were almost like it almost felt like they were rooting for us after that
Yeah.
second map. It
They
almost
wanted
felt they were
EG to
just
win.
rooting for it. I think
Yeah.
everybody third map wanted EG to win. So her saying that they didn't show up, they didn't. Like like I said, like if they show up, they lose. Like EG loses. Um, it's the first fucking tier one win we've had since IEM Summer 2021,
Oh my
which
god.
was an online tournament against Heroic.
Oh my god. That's unreal.
We had one, and that was a best of three. We won 2-1, and the last one, the more recent one, would have been against Furia in
Yeah, I was gonna
the
say Fury is the
major,
only other one you can
but
even say. Yeah.
that's a BO1, right?
It's a
Everybody
BO1.
knows that BO1s are a joke.
Yep.
Everyone knows that any team can win a BO1. So it's
Our
been
last best
almost
of three win is an online event against fucking Heroic. Like
yeah,
literally almost year and a half, 2 years ago. Good lord.
yeah. Like don't fucking tell me that this shit's working. Because
Nah.
if it was fucking working, we'd be smacking everybody. Our roster wouldn't even have automatic or kneeling. We'd have basically the whole fucking black roster up on the top and fucking fragging out. We're we're not there yet.
Yeah, what really baffles me, before we move on to the Vitality game, which obviously won't be the funnest thing to do in the world, but is just it baffles me that somehow, and I've said this multiple times over the past few months, and it still stands. I am 23 years old, and I feel like I understand marketing better than EG does. I don't know how that's possible. I really don't. It makes
Dude,
no sense to me,
I think it's so funny
but it's
because
true.
on my Twitter, so after we beat Heroic, I made two TikToks,
Yep.
right? And it felt like those got I'm not trying to brag. They got like kind of a lot of attention for whatever reason.
Yeah, I
But
saw one of them.
the reason I figured it out is because they do like the main like e.g. like Twitter or like YouTube, they do fucking nothing for
No, they do
CS:GO.
nothing. No, they do nothing for
I mean, they
CS.
they do the threads to keep you updated
The
with the
best content
matches.
I've seen from them from the CS:GO division has literally been that video they did with Wiz
Yeah,
before Black.
yeah,
That was the
like that was
best
fucking
best
awesome.
they've done. Best they've done. They've
And
done
it's just
nothing.
a fucking interview.
They've done
That's all it
nothing.
is. It's a fucking interview, and we're saying that's the best
I
content they've
know.
done for this team.
It's
Like,
so bad.
and before that, the last thing I can remember is I think it was Tarek and somebody did like a deal with like the U.S. Air Force or something like
Yes,
that, where
yeah.
they played games.
Yeah.
But like, besides that, everything's focused on Dota, LC, like League, right? Which is fair. Those are where we're probably, almost definitely most profitable at the moment.
Yeah, and I
But
think the LCS most likely has something. I would be shocked if it's not something in the LCS in terms of their deal with the LCS where
right,
they are required to make some kind of content. Now, what
right.
baffles me is that they still haven't made any. Like, dude, Liquid does those CS:GO vlogs that are just
Those
so
those are
fucking good.
so fucking
I
nice.
just don't understand. Is it employees? It's not money.
No,
What
we
the hell
fucking
is
know
the
we have money.
yeah, I just what is the reason we
E
don't have anything like that? You already now, granted, I understand it's easier to do with the LCS because they're in the same
Mhm,
place, they're not moving anywhere. But
right.
you have the money to do it. If you don't have the employees, go hire them. Find the talent
Yeah,
to do it. You have plenty of if you're as big of an esport org as I hope you are, you should have the resources to be able to ask someone, hey, who would be a reputable, great person to kind of hire for this role and scout
right.
people. I don't understand how I swear to God, I feel like I know the direction they should go with their marketing department better than they do. It
Mhm.
makes no sense.
Yeah, I don't get it. I mean, okay, I'll give you again, not trying to brag.
Yeah, no,
I make one fucking TikTok of us
yeah.
beating Heroic. It gets like 2,500 views, 45 likes, 3 retweets. Nealon responds, and I got 3 of the players to follow me off of one fucking
That's
video.
fucking awesome. That's
Like, which
awesome.
is fucking awesome,
Yeah.
right? But you're if EG would have made the video I did probably at higher quality, that shit would have fucking been
Oh,
insane.
easy. Yeah.
But like, I don't think Nicole watches these, but give me $5 a fucking TikTok and
I
I'll
don't think
fucking
she
make them every fucking day.
Yeah, I don't think she watches
But
them, but she definitely knows who the fuck I am because
yeah.
I have enough activity on Twitter where she definitely knows who I
Oh,
am.
she knows who I
Yeah.
am. Like for those jerseys, I tweeted at her and I said, "Hey, you said these jerseys were dropping at 9 a.m. Eastern, and it's 3 hours past that."
Did she?
And somebody replied, going, "Homie went straight to the top." And she
Yeah.
replied, she was like, "Oh, my bad. We had like a delay on the website, and then they went up." And I thought that was a funny shit. I actually have a card signed by Nicole somewhere. I don't know where it is, but
Yeah,
anyways,
I
to
definitely
be hon-
I've had multiple interactions with her at this point.
yeah,
She definitely knows that I exist and that I make content regarding the team.
it
I did get a
it's
follow
it
from
yeah.
Anders Bloom, so that's fucking news
That's
on
hype.
Twitter.
That
I didn't
that's
expect
hype as
that,
shit. That's hype
yesterday
as
or
shit.
a couple days ago, but it happened, so that's fucking sick. But like,
No, overall, this is it's a ridiculous fucking
it's
situation to
nuts.
be
Yeah,
in.
it's nuts.
Like, you know, we
And
we get one fucking win against
yeah,
the number one team in the world, and they act like we just won the fucking Super Bowl.
and I'm being honest here. Like, look, I'll be straight up. If EG was good at marketing, my podcast would have zero relevance whatsoever. I probably never would have gotten an interview with Vorborg because I guarantee you,
They'd have their own
if
fucking podcast.
yeah, well, and if EG was big enough, other people would have podcasts like Cloud9. Like if I was a Cloud9 fan or an 100 Thieves fan or any of those organizations fans, if I did a podcast, it probably wouldn't get very good reception because they just don't have they have such a big fan base. People are already doing that. Like that's not
They're
anything
doing
I
their
could
own
do.
stuff. Yeah,
Yeah, but with EG it's different, right? And so it's just I want this organization to get better from a get more fans and get more popularity and get people to want to join the and support them. But like it's
the
so
blue
hard
wave,
when they
baby.
just get in their own way. Um,
Yeah, like it's
so
really
but
tough sometimes seeing this kind of situation play
yeah,
out. Like it's almost childish to a point,
it is.
and like you, in my job, if I were to like
Oh, dude,
bash any client, I'm posting it in
I'm
here. If I
gone.
were to bash any client, any worker, anything like that, saying they're not good, we're having a talk, we're having fucking meetings,
Yeah,
we're having board shit. I'm probably brought up on fucking like I'm probably fired or
yeah.
reprimanded in some way.
If you're hurting the brand that much, if you're hurting your
I
company's brand
yeah,
that much, you're probably gone.
yeah.
Like
And I almost guarantee if Pimp and GamerDoc were in person, she says fucking none of that.
Oh, 100%.
The
Oh,
the the
100%. She
o
doesn't say a
the
word.
the sole fact that Twitter exists and she can just do it from behind a screen,
Oh,
which a lot of
100%.
people do,
Yes.
right? Like, obviously, she's not the only one, like, that's kinda what Twitter's for, because people can feel safe talking shit because they don't have to see them in person,
Yeah.
but, like, we don't have the grounds to fucking back up any of this talk yet.
Yeah.
Now, if we would've beaten Vitality and
Amen.
maybe, like, just went straight to Blast Finals, right, through the new Blast system, then you can maybe say, like, "Oh, now you all were talking shit, and now our main roster's doing well." Then you can kinda talk. We
Yeah.
won 1 fucking map. It's been 2 years since we beat a tier 1 team in a BO3 series. Don't fucking act like we just won the fucking major or some
Yes.
shit.
Yes.
Like, because 'cause I'm gonna be honest, we probably depending on the maps we see come out against the Heroic rematch, we probably don't
Probably.
fucking beat Heroic.
Yeah, we're probably gonna
Unless
lose.
unless some shit happens, we probably don't beat Heroic. Come
Katie ain't gonna lose
Fnatic,
this.
ideally, we should beat
I
Fnatic for
I
Katowice
hope we
play-in,
can. I hope.
but we're notorious for losing to, like, the teams that we shouldn't lose, like Fluxo. We lost to fucking Fluxo, guys.
Yeah.
Like we're notorious for not winning matches that we should win.
Yeah.
We
I'll be
lost
honest.
to
I think Fnatic is still going to
9Z,
be
like
favored, but yeah, you're right.
yeah,
Like
like
it's Fnatic is again, if you're coming from the perspective of you just beat Heroic, what are your standards? Yeah, you should be beating Fnatic.
right. Yeah. I think a lot of the upper management sometimes has an issue being unbiased.
Yes.
I think Nicole less than most because I think uh she even made a tweet like about the CS team, like, we're not happy about our performances. We're gonna make changes, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Which is
That was a
great to
while ago.
hear
Yeah.
from the CEO, and but I think some of them are just so like in their own world that they can't see from outside, and that's super tough to do, right? Because if you
Yeah.
work for an org or even support an org, right, as a fan, it's really hard to see things from an objective point of view because you notice the little things or know the little things internally and externally that others probably don't see, right? A
Yes.
lot of probably 95% of the CS community just only see the results and stats, don't actually fucking watch it or know about the internal things, especially with this program being the only one of its kind at the
Yes.
moment. Right? So, yeah, you just got to be objective about everything until up to the point of full on success, right?
Yeah.
Once we win a tournament maybe or, get a top 3, 4
We need
finish in a tourney.
playoffs.
Yeah, like, we need playoffs
We
to
need a
fucking show
playoff
that
appearance, man.
then we can maybe talk shit. Maybe we can be like, "Okay, yeah, y'all were memeing on us, and now we finished 3rd, 4th place in fucking, like, Katowice or, like, Cologne or some crazy ass shit," right? But,
Yeah.
again, that goes back to what you were saying, like, it requires consistent play, and that's been a huge issue for us since Ethan left the roster probably. Like
Yeah. It's been a long
Like, we just
time.
haven't been a consistent team ever. Like, we show flashes and then we go back down into the dumpsters. But I will say that this is probably the most confident that I have seen our team be in a long.
Yeah.
It's almost like they're trusting Nealon. When Stewie was calling, it almost seemed like they didn't really trust his calls, but solely because he was IGL, they almost had to follow him, even though they weren't okay with it. But
Yeah.
I overall, this whole fucking thing is ridiculous. I'm surprised we're even talking about it because I think everybody knows that GamerDoc was kind of on the wrong end of this.
Yeah.
Just be it. You can be supportive without being braggadocious and calling fucking people out. You just support the team. Be happy with the results that we get so far. Like you said, be humble in victory. But then, as soon as we fucking lose, people talk shit, and then they get upset that people are talking shit. Of
Yeah.
course, they're gonna talk shit because we're talking shit when we win one fucking match, get stomped by Vitality, and then everyone's fucking back in their hidey hole like nothing ever happened. Like.
Yeah. And I'll be honest, like I like Nicole. Like I don't have anything
Mhm.
I have anything against Nicole. I really like Nicole and I think she's doing an interesting job. And she just wants this EG project to be, you know, and this goes for all the esports. She just wants EG to be different. It's apparent with how she's treated the LCS. It's apparent how they've changed from being a North American Dota 2 team to a South American Dota 2 team. It's changed with how they're running this Blueprint project. RLCS Rocket League is based in Germany. The
Yeah.
players are from Germany, so I understand she's doing something different. She wants to do something different. I'm totally okay with that. I don't have anything against her. It's just there are. I understand that the most of this is coming from the fact that EG and the employees there truly believe they're doing something. They're trying to be doing something interesting, doing something new. They're trying and they're putting effort into it. They're putting their all into it, and they feel like they're not getting rewarded for the work that they're putting in by the community. And I understand that you can feel that way. I do. But unfortunately, until the results show, you can't gloat like this. It's just too much. It's too early. Just stay calm, put your head down, keep going to work, and the work will prove it for itself.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? And that's what it comes down to. And so that's the message I would have for them is to just please just stay grounded. And I understand you don't feel like your work's getting appreciated by the community. Don't worry, there are fans that are seeing it. We do see it. Um, yeah, we're here, but for now, that's got to be enough. Until the
Hmm.
results show, that has to be enough, unfortunately. Um, yeah. And so to kind of get into the vitality section, um, I think Overpass was good. Again, I don't think Overpass was that bad. I thought it was actually pretty strong.
Yep.
They could have won an additional T side round, at least the one that's coming to my mind instantly. I'm sure there were
Hmm.
maybe a couple others that looked potentially winnable. They lost the T side 6-9. That's still a good T side, but they could have been 8-7. But Spinks had a massive play where they didn't expect him in the pit
Yep.
at the end of the first half. And that was unfortunate. But Spinks really took over in this series, especially this map in particular. Popped off with like 150 fucking ADR.
Yep.
Zaiwu was incredible. My point that I posted on Twitter was, yeah, look what happens to EG when you have to end up playing a player like Zaiwu. It's not like playing Heroic. Heroic is a
Right.
very, very good team, but Heroic doesn't have a player on their team that just takes over and wins games like
Right.
Zaiwu does. They kind of have it in Stown, but he's not as consistently that good as someone like Zaiwu,
Right.
as someone like Simple. Some of these players that just take over games. Um, you know, maybe even to some degree a player like Yakindar with his entries and how
Hmm.
impactful he can be with those when he's on point. Um, there's just we don't have enough to deal with that at the moment, or at least we're not quite strong enough yet. Because as you could clearly see from the heroic game, it wasn't our individual player performances that were the reason we won. It was the teamwork and our ability to play as a team and our communication that
Oh,
allowed us to win.
absolutely. Yeah.
So I think this series in general really showed just how having one or two players who are just individually way more talented just impacts the game
Hmm.
to such a high level. Again, I thought Overpass was very strong. I actually don't have any really major qualms over Overpass. I thought it was quite good, and I think it actually could have been much better. Um, and frankly, with Inferno, it's the complete opposite. I don't see any promise as of right now, and I think this map will be abused. Other teams will abuse this map on EG, and we'll get into the map pool in a bit, but it's going to get abused on EG quite often. I expect it to, and frankly, look, at least in the other Inferno, you might be able to look at some of the rounds and kind of break it down, see what could have been done better. I still think you can obviously do that in this map. There's always something you can take from stuff like this, but it's not nearly as much because look, you get to a certain point where you're not even playing remotely like yourselves because you're just getting beat on so badly. It just doesn't matter anymore.
Hmm.
Um, you know, so obviously it'll allow them to look at their holes on their CT side. Not really much to take from T side because it didn't fucking exist. But other than that, my thoughts on the series were I would have liked a more competitive Inferno. I expected them to lose Inferno, but I didn't expect them to lose it this badly. I was hoping for 7 to 10 rounds. Um, and Overpass, I thought was their map they needed to win to get to Mirage. They didn't win it, unfortunately, even though I think they played relatively well. Um, so other than the fact that they got shit on Inferno, I don't actually have that many complaints about the series.
Hmm.
It's really just that how bad that Inferno was, and it really ruined the mood at the end of the weekend. So yeah, go for it.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm. I think we're on the same page here. I think Overpass again our best map so far from seeing the early stages of this team this season. When I think anybody that watches or even plays knows if someone is just popping off in even in like right, like matchmaking or face it, right? Sometimes there's just nothing you can fucking do about it. No strat that you're calling is gonna do anything about Spinks going 28-17, Zywoo 25-13. Yeah, Spinks had 125 ADR for that overpass map. What and I don't even think we took like too many missteps to lead him to getting a whole lot of frags, right? I think he just made really good individual plays most of the time. Um, I think like you said, there's a couple T side rounds we probably could have gotten, where we probably slipped up, made mistakes, or we're holding the wrong angles. But yeah, Inferno was an absolute kind of joke. We start CT side and we only get one round on in a current CS meta where CT side, a lot of maps are CT sided. But this whole match overall, right, where you're going up against Spinks, who debatably didn't have as good of a year last year going to Vitality as people probably expected him to have, considering he was really, really
Just
doing
so
well
good on ents. Yeah, so good on
on
ents.
ends. Um, but it's almost like now he's flipped the switch now that they've had a player break in the winter to work on some things. And obviously, you're going up against Zywoo, the number two best player in the world from last year. Um, Apex, who is a notoriously really good IGL. And then the Astralis duo of Magic Skin Dupree, who look like they're the only surviving members of Astralis really that are competing at a super high level. I mean, you can debatably say Device had a really good matchup, but I mean, again, I think people are going to look at this scoreline and think that we just got slammed because of that Inferno match, but I think Overpass was a lot closer than people are going to realize. We went into
Yes.
the half 6-9 starting T side.
It's a great T
So T
side, man.
side, which is like a
It's a
really
great
good
T
T
side.
side, right?
Yeah.
I think we just fell apart a little bit on some things on CT. I think Spinks and Zywoo were heating up and kind of getting really big opening duels.
Yeah.
Uh, I think that Overpass was, like I said, a lot closer than people are going to look into. Obviously, Inferno, we got absolutely smacked, but who's to say we don't make a couple little mistakes on Overpass, win it, and we take them to a third map? Now the narrative of how we're doing is completely changed,
Yes.
right? People are like, oh, well, yeah, they lost a Vitality, but they took them to a third map, right?
Yes.
Like the narrative could be completely different. But now the narrative is, yeah, they beat Heroic, but
It
they
was a
just got
fluke.
fucking shit on by, yeah, it was a fluke. They got shit on by Vitality, right?
Yeah.
That's what people are going to be
Yeah.
thinking.
And oh yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not upset about the loss.
Mm,
Like you can say I'm biased being a fan, but realistically, trying to be objective, like there were really good things that we saw on Overpass. The fact that we lost Overpass and we're still saying that it's probably our best map is, I think, a really big tell that we do think it's good, right? If we
yeah.
lose a map, but we still think it's one of our best, just based on what we saw, I think that shows a really good promise. Um, but yeah, when you have Zywoo and Spinks overall, Zywoo had a 1.87 rating for the series. Spinks had a 1.5. When players are just playing super high individually, like sometimes there's just nothing you can do, right? You can say old school and still like simple, right? Like simple and Navi when Zeus was still in the team, like purely just carried that team, right?
Yes.
They weren't anything insane, but they had simple. Vitality before they got Magic and Dupree for a long time was just when Alex was still IGLing, right? A lot of people just memed on like Vitality, like the only reason they win is because they have Zywoo. So it shows that individual play is very important. We beat Heroic and we actually had worse stats individually than
Yes.
Heroic, which shows that we had really, really good team play. But in these matchups where we're going to be playing like a Zywoo, a Simple, a Device, some of these just individual gods, we're going to need that player on our side, like Audi, Breeze, to really step up and
Match to the
match their
level. Yeah.
opponent. Because without that, then we will get rolled
Yeah.
by a lot of these teams with superstar talent.
Yeah.
And
And
like you said, like Heroic has down, right?
mhm,
But he's not a Zywoo. If he was a Zywoo, then we probably you could say Cadian, but again, Cadian either
he's
is
very
hot or cold.
inconsistent. Yeah, very
So is
inconsistent.
Tessus.
That's
Shush
their problem.
obviously is just an anchor support player, right? So I think I'm really impressed that we beat another team like Heroic, who is purely based on like good calling and team play, not individual performance.
Yes.
Not saying that Apex doesn't have good team play or good calling,
It's much more
but
individually styled.
it's
Individually styled. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. It's a lot more free, and Zywoo and these players take a lot more liberties than other teams do. but that's because you have the best fucking play, one of the best fucking players in the world.
Yeah.
If I have Zywoo on my team and I'm just telling him, do whatever the fuck you think's right because it probably is, like.
Yeah.
But I think it, I don't want to say it was a good loss. I will say it was a good overpass loss. I think we'll probably look at that demo, the team will, and find a lot of things they can fix. Inferno, I'm gonna lead this in if you don't mind.
Go for
It
it.
it just should not be in our fucking map pool. And if it's going to be, we gotta restructure something. Obviously, we've only seen it twice, but you're telling me we start CT side on Inferno and we get one fucking round, one round. We go into the half 114, and then we don't even get to see our T side again. So I
Yeah.
can't even we can't bash our T side Inferno except based on heroic because we only saw two fucking rounds against Vitality.
Yeah.
Like obviously, I think Overpass should be in our map pool, right? Because we've talked about that this whole podcast that it should be. I think Ancient looked really really solid for the most part. Um, but the fact that we picked Inferno against heroic and still really didn't do too much, too many things that impressed me, it kind of worries, right?
Yeah.
Our T side on Inferno when we picked it against heroic wasn't horrible, but it wasn't very good because kind of like you were saying, like every team likes playing Inferno. You almost have to have Inferno in your map pool to do well, but I just don't see it. Like we used to be the best Inferno team in the world, debatably when we had Tarek and Ethan and that lineup, but I haven't seen us play that map well in a very long time. And you can take it from here, but like we can't permaban Inferno because I don't want to see us play fucking. We suck at Verdict. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I will just really quickly mention, although Dupree was their worst rated player during the series, undeniably in that Overpass game had some unbelievable kills that
Hmm.
were massive impact kills that won them that map as well as they did. Otherwise, EG would have had more rounds. Um, just wanted to give Dupree his credit considering how terribly his. I mean, listen, I mean he had a 1.02 rating, which is better than every player on EG, but he was their worst player. Somewhat, you could maybe argue Magic's was worse because he got one less kill, sure, whatever. But his rating was slightly better. I don't care. My point is, Dupree was one of the worst players for Vitality during the series. Still had massive impact in winning that Overpass game.
Absolutely.
Um, as for their map pool, I guess this will be a great point for me to kind of bring up what I had their map pool looking like at the end of last season. So end of last season, this was what I thought in terms of best map to worst map. This is how I ranked their map pool. I put Overpass as their best map. I had Mirage as their second best map. Nuke after that. Fourth, I put Ancient. I put Ancient over Dust 2, even though they played Dust 2 significantly more than Ancient. That's because I personally saw that Ancient had a lot of promise at the time. Even though I knew they'd been improving their Dust 2, I actually thought their Dust 2 was getting much better. But I thought Ancient just had untapped potential for them. After Dust 2, I had Inferno and then Vertigo. So Vertigo, the permaban, Inferno, I thought was their worst map that they played. Obviously, how would I change this now? Honestly, I don't know. Maybe I'd move Ancient up a spot. I'm a little anxious to put it over Nuke or Mirage because we haven't seen them yet. Um, and I have no idea what their Anubis looks like. There's just too many question marks in terms of we don't really know how to rank their map pool because we haven't seen enough maps yet. Um,
Hmm.
but Inferno is still going to be down there, and I think unfortunately this is definitely not a map you want to be as your permaban. Because all these teams play it, putting that as your permaban makes you extremely limited in your veto process. So you can't permaban it. I think Vertigo as a permaban should be fine. I think they should keep that. I don't think to make. I don't want to make any drastic changes to the permaban, but I do think this is a map they need to improve on because I've mentioned this with Current before. I think this is going to be exposed every single best of three they play from now on. I
Hmm.
really don't see a way where this does not get exposed, and you can bet money that it definitely won't be banned by EG first in their series with Heroic to throw a curveball because there's one map that you're never going to give Heroic. It's Vertigo. They're good at it. They're very good at it. You're not going to give them Vertigo. an opportunity to play it at least. So you're going to see a Vertigo permaban. That isn't changing. Inferno will get picked most likely by Heroic. I will be shocked if that map does not get picked by Heroic. If EG picks it, they're on crack. I don't know what else to say. Like, there's no way they can pick this map. I would expect they may not pick Overpass. Actually, they may not pick Overpass. Um, I don't know what. Do you know what Heroic's permaban is by any chance?
That's what I'm looking up right now. It's actually, well, this season so far, it's been Anubis.
Anubis. So Anubis is their permaban. So
That's what it's looking like.
you know what? Heroic, I don't know. Maybe they have a little bit prepared on Anubis or not. I have no idea. I mean, I think they made Anubis their permaban because Dust 2 was their permaban,
Mm.
but it got removed. I don't know if Heroic has any prep on Anubis. Um, and I don't think it's the time for them in the pick ban to take a gamble like not banning Anubis. But um, I was just thinking in my head, what if they banned Overpass? But honestly, they probably won't because they're probably going to anti-strat the shit out of EG.
Hmm.
If and probably want to play Overpass, which is where I lean into. EG may not pick Overpass. They might want to go to a Mirage, a Nuke, something different, so that they can't be anti-stratted on that map. So don't be surprised coming into the next series if EG does not pick Overpass, even though it's been their best map. If they
I
want to
will.
try something that's different.
I
Um,
completely agree.
yeah.
Heroic actually removed Ancient against Astralis, but that's solely
Interesting.
because Astralis removed Anubis first, and
Ah,
they went
yes,
first in the.
of course. Yes.
Um, but yeah, I actually was gonna say I would not be surprised if we go with like a Nuke against Heroic
Hmm.
because I'm looking here, and historically, Nuke has not been. It's a pretty. It looks like a 50-50 map for Heroic.
Yeah.
So I really wouldn't be surprised if we see Anubis gone, Vertigo gone, and then maybe we throw in a Nuke just because we've played Overpass now twice. So Heroic probably has a lot of. Obviously, it was once again one was against Heroic, so they know how we play it a little bit now. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see a Nuke or Mirage. I'd rather see a Nuke just solely because I think Heroic is a pretty good Mirage team. And I think I saw. For me personally, I probably would have had Nuke over Mirage. In that list because I think I saw a little bit more proactiveness on the CT side for Nuke. Um, but yeah, I would not be surprised if we see Nuke come out over Overpass for this next rematch series because I think obviously if it plays out like we think it will, I would say Nuke, Inferno, and then maybe Overpass could be left over third map.
Yeah, maybe third. Yeah.
Because I would probably reckon, depending on who gets to go first of the map pick, it'll probably come down to Nuke, Inferno pick, and then it'll probably be between. I think Ancient will probably be actually vetoed by Heroic at a certain point because they'd probably rather play us on Overpass again than Ancient, or maybe even a
Yeah.
Mirage or something. I'd like to see a new map pool just solely so we can get a better idea of how we're gonna play on Nuke and how we're gonna play on maybe Mirage. But I think Heroic would be silly, absolutely goofy if they did not pick Inferno.
Yeah. I,
Like
I'm. I'm.
I think
Mhm.
they'd be throwing honestly.
Yeah. I think you're definitely like we were saying. I think you're definitely going to see a pick other than Overpass from EG. Uh, Nuke actually is a decent shout. I actually think that you're probably right. It most likely will be Nuke considering Heroic's strength on Mirage. I think they will. Yeah, they're gonna pick Inferno. I just don't see how they don't. It's clearly EG's weakness. And so they're definitely going to go into that. There's only a couple of days until the map gets played, so it would be shocking if they, you know, turned it around and somehow made Inferno a great map for them. Look, maybe they could, but it's clearly the map Heroic should go for right now. And then yeah, I think you're either going to see for the third map either Ancient or Overpass, and it, in my opinion, will most likely come down to whatever Heroic sees the most holes in. I think wherever they feel like they have an opportunity, that's the map they're going to go for because Ancient and Overpass are great maps for them for the most part. So I think they're going to lean into either whichever one is worse for EG or whichever one they feel like stylistically they can counter harder. Very well could be Ancient. Very well could be Ancient at the end, honestly. But I think EG is going to ban probably Mirage in that second phase.
Yep.
Not going to want to play them on the decider on that map. Um, and then Anubis obviously is going to get perma banned from heroic. That's kind of how I see this one shaping up in terms
Yeah.
of the veto. It's going to be really interesting to see the rematch. I'm very excited for it, honestly. Again, I expect them to lose. Getting a map would be great.
Huge.
That would be great. But I just want a close series overall. I just want two close maps at a minimum. And what would be considered good or great would be a map, and obviously winning the series would be fantastic. Um, so that's kind of where I'm at with that. If you don't have a whole lot more, I guess we can move on into the Katowice stuff. But yeah, if you got anything else, feel free.
Yeah. I think yeah. Honestly, if we play the exact same maps against heroic, I think we lose. I would stick with my prediction that I had for the last time we played heroic. I think we lose 0-2.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, I just want to see something close. I think they will pick Inferno. Again, looking at statistically, if you even count it, because we haven't beaten the tier one team on Inferno since I don't know. Do you consider Team One tier
No.
one?
No.
No. I guess maybe complexity.
Oh man.
Uh,
Ooh, I do want to
no. Oh,
mention.
or Double O Nation maybe in the
Uh,
PVL, but
I
not
don't
even
know.
there. But that's the last time we've won. We've beat because we got in the past times we've played Inferno. We lost 12-16 Cloud9, 7-16 Liquid, 7-16 ATK, which was that Cash Cup. So I mean, there's an asterisk by that one. But then 17-16 Heroic, 116 Vitality. We got beat by FaZe a few months ago. 8-16. We lost NIP. We have not beaten a tier one Inferno team ever in the past year. And like the complexity one, even the one we won in EPL 15. I mean, you could debatably say complexity really isn't up at tier one just yet either.
Yeah, I'll
Probably more.
say personally, I mentioned this at the end of last season and I got laughed at. But I truly do believe this, even still. I think EG is better than Complexity. Complexity
I
has been fucking god
Yep.
awful these past couple of months. I'm not even
Yep.
joking. Like they have been terrible. I think EG is better than Complexity. I got laughed for that at the end of last season when I mentioned that I thought because they obviously hadn't actually played each other. But I thought EG was better than Complexity at the end of last season, looking at their form. Um,
Yep.
and
I agree with you.
I think it's even more so now. We'll see with time. If I'm wrong, I will be the first one to admit it. Um, but I do truly believe, and the results will tell over the next couple of weeks because EG and Complexity are playing in the same events. They're also playing in this Katowice qualifier. They're the play-in, which I guess we can move into. Uh, they're not in the same group, but they're in Complexity's in a different little group of four. They could technically, oh, actually, I don't know that they could actually play each other. I don't think they could.
Um,
No, they couldn't. At least I don't think they can.
no, they can't.
No, they can't. But uh, but to kind of get into this a little bit, give some context. So the Katowice play-in, this is to get into the actual group stage of Katowice, which EG did by winning some cash cups and kind of pushing some other teams away from them. One of which being Astralis. They were not very aware of the situation, unfortunately for them. But yes, we got put into a little kind of mini group with three other teams, those teams being Fnatic, Sprout, and OG. OG obviously playing in the Blast groups currently and is looking pretty good, pretty decent. They're a strong team. And then Fnatic is kind of a question mark. They performed extremely well at the major. Um, they're one of those fringe top 10 teams, honestly. They're good. They're better than what their roster appears to be, but they're not heroic, they're not vitality, they're not team liquid, they're nothing like those teams. But they're still very good and are definitely favorites to beat Evil Geniuses. They play each other on the 1st of February at the bright and early time of, I believe, 7:30 in the fucking morning Eastern. So that's brilliant. Um, but
6:30 for me if it makes you
yeah,
feel any
6:30
better.
for you. Yeah. Good news is I'll be fucking awake anyway because I gotta go to work. But so I mean, looking at this, obviously, if they're able to beat Fnatic, I mean, I think this little four-team group, I think they're probably the third best team in this group. I think they're better than Sprout. Um, but I think OG and Fnatic are better than them. I think OG
Hmm.
being the clear-cut best team in the little mini group.
Yeah.
And it, by the way, it takes 2 wins to get through. There's a lower bracket as well. But no matter what, it's 2 wins and you're in, 2 losses and you're out. So yeah, I think overall, I'm hoping they obviously make it through and get to the group stage. That would be big. Just gives you more opportunities to play the best teams in the world, which is what you need if you're EG. Um, and I think they're definitely, obviously, if I'm putting them as the third seed, that means that I don't expect them to make it through this play-in. I think that's kind of what has to be mentioned if I'm mentioning that I think they're the third best team in their little mini group.
Hmm.
But I definitely think that they have the potential to prove otherwise and to make it through this play-in. This is not a play-in stage where I'm like some of these other teams like Permita. Sorry, they're not making it through. I don't even know who they are. I don't even know the
Who the
players on that
fuck is
team. I'm looking
Permita?
at them. I don't know. I'm looking at their roster right now. I don't know a single one of these
Yeah,
players.
it's a Polish team. Yeah, I don't
Don't know
know
who they are. So
anybody on this team.
yeah, so like it's not Greyhound gaming levels of bad. Okay, I'm not suggesting they're gonna just bomb out of this qualifier. Now, with me mentioning that, those are 2 teams that are probably gonna make it through, and EG won't, and I'll just get laughed at. But my point being, um, there's potential to make it through here, but we really just don't know until we get there. I'd put them as the third seed. Let's see if they can make it through. It's definitely possible. I don't mind Fnatic as a matchup. I actually think that's a good place to be. Important to point out, best of ones.
Oh
Best
wait,
of
word?
ones. Yes, at least I'm looking at this right now, and this
Yeah,
says
that's what it
best of
says.
ones.
Yeah.
So I don't know if the whole thing is best of ones. I don't know if the lower round two or the upper quarterfinal or whatever, that's how they're phrasing it on HLTV.
Right.
I don't know if those are best of threes
These
and the
are also
first
best
rounds
of
are best
ones.
of
Yeah.
ones. I don't know how that works. But if they are all best of ones, heh, I don't know whether to be optimistic because EG is the underdog and that potentially means they could get an upset win, or if I should be nervous because I don't know. Honestly, it's probably a good thing in the
Probably
sense. I
plays in
mean,
our favor a little bit.
I guess I would rather that be best of threes because I want them to play more maps.
Hmm.
But from the perspective of making it through, you can make the argument that if you're the underdog, it's better if you have a best of one. You only have to win one map. If you do a best of one, the veto usually means you go to a map that both teams like. There's opportunity there to potentially get upset wins. Now, granted, the downside is Fnatic has all this video now on EG. EG has nothing on Fnatic. That's a problem. Um, but yeah, hopefully they make it through. I'm not expecting it, but hopefully they do. That's it. That's all I gotta say.
Um. Yeah. Hmm. It's hard because I'm trying to keep my expectations low because I'm
Yes.
still not completely sold just based off of one win over heroic. Um. Although that I am excited, I think Fnatic's a good matchup in the fact of it's another team that isn't like isn't Vitality, right? That has a Zywoo or a superstar like god on their team. I mean, you can debatably say that Nikodos has really like been playing really well, and maybe even Roje, but still, even at that, I'd rather put our team play up against another team's team play
Yeah.
versus someone that has like an insane player. Um, I honestly think, and this is where we'll differ. I think we're probably still the worst in the group, solely because I think Sprout is one of those teams that is always kind of a sleeper pick that can either be really good or really bad.
Hmm.
I think Refresh is doing some really interesting things over there with that team, especially with what they got Zyphon and Stare from that Copenhagen Flames
They're
roster,
ranked
right?
higher than us in the HLTV
Right.
rankings.
Um,
They're
and
19th.
I think Zello's been doing really well on that team. So
Yeah.
I think we're honestly last out of the four. I think it will always depend on OG because OG again is one of those teams that is they're either playing absolutely insane. I think they played pretty good against FaZe, and they obviously couldn't eke it out because it's FaZe. Um, but yeah, I think we have a good shot against Fnatic. I honestly would almost rather. Hmm, I was gonna say I'd almost rather lose the first round and then try to play through the lowers, but I don't know. I don't expect us to go through, but I would like to see at least one. If they're all BO1s, I'd like to see at least one win. Um, I don't know if they'll make the upper quarters or the lower finals BO3s. You would maybe think they would, like logically, to do so, but also at the same time you could say, oh well, it's just playing, so they're always. I don't
Oh,
know how it's
I
working
have
out.
sorry, I have a little bit of clarity. It mentions here in the format double elimination. Opening matches are best of one, remaining matches best of three. So
Oh,
looks like
okay,
it's only this match against Fnatic that's going to be a best of
okay,
one, which
okay.
I mean makes me question
Hmm.
why the fuck this is even a best of one. You might as well just make it a best of three, but whatever. I assume
I think
maybe
it's
well,
probably
yeah, I
it's
don't know.
it's probably because of a time thing, right? Because
Maybe
this is only supposed to be for it's Feb
it's supposed
first
to be
through the
very
third,
brief.
so it's
Yeah,
like
it's
two
very
three
short.
days. So I'm guessing it's a time thing. Because all of these best of ones are playing that first day, February.
Yeah,
So they're probably trying to knock that all out, and then they're able to break up the best of threes
yeah, you're right.
better. But okay, so that makes me feel a little bit better. I think we have a good shot in a best of one, right? Like best of ones, as everyone says, are always just kind of a coin flip.
Yep.
Anyone can win because it's always, like you said, a map that both teams typically are good or like playing. God can only hope it won't be Inferno. Um, but if it's like, say we take them to an overpass, like I almost give us a decent chance to win a BO1, right? We're in that stage now where it's like really good teams lose to teams in BO1s, and we're that team that shouldn't win, but it's BO1, so we won. Again, if we get one map win or in a BO1 or maybe even a series win, I would call it a success.
Yeah.
I don't know if we'll go through. I think obviously we'll probably talk about this more next week when it's closer to happening.
Yes.
Um, if we even do make it through to Katowice, I
It's a
wouldn't
W
really. It's a win, right? Like we made it to one of the biggest tournaments in the
in the calendar. Yeah.
in the cycle this year. So we'll just have to see. Only time will tell. We'll talk about it probably more next week. Just it'll be closer, but I don't know. There's not a whole lot of other groups we'd probably rather be in, except maybe the first group, that has Permita big in complexity.
Yep.
But I don't want to play an NIP. I don't want to play Spirit. I don't want to play an Ents considering we haven't seen them play in God knows how long. I definitely don't want to fucking play Cloud9.
No.
I almost don't even want to play Pain because for whatever reason
They're actually a decent team.
they're pretty decent, and
They actually
we
probably
have
should
a
have made the major and they didn't. So
we have a kryptonite against Brazilians and a kryptonite against the Germans. I don't know why, but it's always them. Uh, I we did we beat IHC? Yeah, we did.
yeah, we did.
I
Yeah,
think
that was
that
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 was
was like the
fine.
only like when we
That was
beat
the
them.
only win we had in at the major.
Yeah, but I don't know. I think we're the worst team in that little group, but I think just because the first round's BO1s, I think we have a shot of at least making it to upper quarters, or
Yeah.
and then maybe drawing something out and being competitive in the lower bracket, even if we lose again.
Yep.
But there's no team here that has like I said, like a Zywoo, like a Sphinx that's gonna completely maybe if we match up against Sprout,
Dexter.
like
Dexter's the only thing that I can think of.
Dexter on OG
He's really the only
probably,
one,
Zello and Stare on Sprout maybe,
I
but
guess,
again
but
like
not really. They're not like
but but they're
Zywoo
not
level.
but they're not posting like 1.2s and 1.3s against tier 1. They play a
No.
lot of mid-tier tournaments
Yeah.
where they perform super well. Um even though they just lost to Endpoint and Eternal Fire and didn't make EPL.
Yeah.
Um so again, I think I like our chances. I like our chances better than complexities.
I agree.
Kind of touching on that thing that we talked about earlier was I think we are better than complexity at some things overall. I think if we probably win a matchup against them, but solely because I think complexity is really good at handling business and the teams that are lower, which I think we struggle with quite often is losing against teams that we shouldn't. But complexity typically doesn't get upset with teams that are worse than they are. That's just my opinion, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how Katowice goes. But I think we'll have stronger and more full fledged opinions on how it will go based on this heroic rematch. And if we somehow beat the heroic rematch, then I think we're guaranteed one more as well,
Yes,
right?
we are.
If
We're
we lose,
guaranteed. You're guaranteed to go into like the regu like the
oh the
I don't even know what they
regulation
call it. The
consolidation or whatever. I don't know.
yeah, the consolidation bracket
Consolidated.
or
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah, I
But
think
so if we
you're
lose
guaranteed
against,
to play. If we had beaten Vitality, I believe we're guaranteed to be in second, uh, the second stage. So I think
Oh,
we would have
wait.
been able to play two best of threes.
We might get our
Um,
wish here, bud. So I'm looking at it now, and if I'm reading it correctly, if we lose against Heroic, we actually play Complexity.
oh really? Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
And then if we beat Complexity, we would play the loser of Group C's final, which would either be Navi G2 or Bigger.
Damn.
But we might get our wish if Heroic. Dude,
Yeah, we could
now
play
now
complexity. We
now
very
now
much could.
looking at the format, I
Yeah.
almost want us to lose because I want to see if we can beat Complexity.
We be playing complexity
I'm not
on
praying on our
Friday.
downfall, but I kind of am.
Yeah, I mean we'll see. I think if you let me Group A, second place. Yeah. So if basically, if I'm looking at this properly, if we do make it to second place, um, you get put in that second round, and if you're put in that second round, I believe you have an additional chance. Even after if you lose that series, I think you get potentially might even get one more match. I don't know if that was how it was last time. It might. I thought there was some type of benefit to being in the second round. Actually, you know what? There it might not be. I'm trying to see.
Hmm. I'm trying to look at the format.
There's got to be. I thought there
Okay,
was
so
some
I think
type of. Oh no, I see what it is. So if you win first place in your group, you're guaranteed to go to fall.
you go
You're
straight
to the
through.
final. And if you get second place, you get put in the second round, which just means you only have to play one best of three. That's what
Yeah,
it means. If you're in the first round, it means you have to win two best of threes to make it to the finals,
yeah,
to spring finals. So that makes
yeah.
sense.
If you win that round two in the single elimination
Yeah,
bracket, I think you go straight to the finals as
yeah,
well.
yeah, yeah.
But everyone that loses goes to the showdown. So
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
okay,
So yeah, who knows? We very
we'll see.
well could be playing complexity, and I will either be correct or incorrect. Listen, all I'm saying is if we're right, I'm a G, and if we're wrong, it's all about playstyles. And you know what? Maybe complexity's playstyle just works really well against EG, and so it doesn't necessarily mean that complexity is better than EG. It just no, I'm just kidding. Well, I mean, I'm not entirely kidding,
Now he's
but
backtracking. Now he's
but
backtracking.
all I'm saying is I've got my own little excuse to get out of this situation. But but no, it'll be honestly really cool if that ends up happening. Obviously, I would prefer for them to win, because then they only have to play one best of three to potentially make it to the fall final, which they couldn't do. They couldn't make any of the fall, spring, or I'm sorry, spring final.
Anything.
They couldn't make any of the blast finals, in the past like fucking in multiple years now. So I would just like for one of those. I would love to see them on that stage with those sick introductions. I just want to see that. That would be fucking sick.
That'd be
Um,
badass. Yeah.
yeah, I would love to see that. So please make it happen. And if they don't, they have to go to the showdown. You better fucking win this time. Um, but I mean, other than that, I think that's everything. Holy fuck.
I think it is.
We've
Been a
literally
while.
gone through literally everything. So overall, looking forward to the week ahead. Not looking forward to my sleep schedule, but I am looking forward to the matches. Um, so yeah, I mean, anything else that you want to throw in there? I mean, this is yeah, just lots of games to come in these next few weeks,
Mhm.
even after Blast. So should we much like you were saying, we will definitely get a much better idea of the identity of this team because it's still not clear after this week.
Yep. Um, we'll obviously talk about Katowice next week a little bit more. Right. I mean, we've only played two BO3, right?
Yep.
So, and four of the maps were all the same. We've played Overpass twice and Inferno twice. The only
Yep.
curveball we saw was Ancient, right? So, I'd really like to see us pick Nuke tomorrow, um, and just play some different maps, right? Like we'll have a better idea of this team's map pool and what our play style is going to be, what roles these players have on specific maps, right? So, I'm not trying to pull a GamerDoc, right? I'm trying to keep expectations low. um, I'm not trying to say we're going to be at the top anytime soon, but I just want to see more. I don't think heroic will be a fluke, but I think that it just showed that if you don't show up against us, that we can pull out.
Yes.
right? I think previously you could easily just show up,
Disrespect us,
probably
do whatever you want, and win.
minimal warm up, not really have to pull anything out of your strat book and still beat us. Now I think we proved against that win against Heroic, and even Vitality probably on Overpass that you gotta show up a little bit to play us now, right? We can upset some big teams. Um, Obviously only one upset so far, but again, I think the casters are right that Heroic didn't show up, and we punished them for it, which was a really big thing to do, right? So I like the direction we're going. Um, Trying to end on a positive note, and that hopefully we see how they play Tuesday in the rematch and see where we end up because we actually won't if we do lose and play Complexity, that will be on that Friday. So we will just have to see what the week holds. We'll have, and then if we beat Complexity and Lower, we'll play on Saturday. So we could be potentially talking about 3 matches next podcast.
Yeah, it'd be
So
be sick.
so hopefully that goes well. But I think this was a good podcast today.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
there's
very
a lot
detailed. Hopefully.
a lot to talk about for
Oh
the
yeah,
CS:GO
dude.
section.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's pretty much everything, guys. As always, timestamps down below. I will be breaking my brain to get that done, but I will get it done. So timestamps will be below, of course. And yeah, make sure to check not only myself but also Current out on Twitter. I believe I also put our Twitch channels in there. I haven't been streaming as much. Current's been streaming some open ESEA
Hmm.
open stuff, so go support him, please. And yeah, hopefully I'll start streaming more if I ever get some fucking free time. But because I do like streaming, it just hasn't really been able to happen for me as of recent. But yeah, thanks for tuning in, guys, and we'll see you guys next week.